we are a little late, and yet we still do not have our note taker. So we're going to record until she arrives and sets up. But I don't want to delay the meeting any longer.
You're good. I'm just taking it for lunch. Oh, thank you, brother.
Okay, so all right. We're calling the meeting to order at 6:23. And I want to welcome everybody here. We got a very full agenda. So again, we will do our best to stay on schedule. Food is being served. Grab what you can eat and enjoy dinner. And the meeting is being recorded, videotaped. I think you all know that already, but just want to remind everybody of that. And I think we have Wi-Fi, but I did not get confirmation, so I don't know if that stays the same password or not as last time. So we will. Well, but I don't know if they activated it. I asked this morning, so they're working on it. Okay. With that, if we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Join us. Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Again, as we did last time, all business items are moved till after all presentations are done. So we're going to proceed to our roll call, and then we'll begin our presentations.
All right, Brandy, absent. Hassan?
Here.
David Balin?
Here.
Jason?
Here.
Mira?
Here.
Becky?
Here.
David Lasher?
Here.
Lori?
Here.
Assad?
Here.
Gabriel's here, Hassan?
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you. Presentations from representatives of elected officials or city departments. If I can just get a show of hands who's here. One. All right. Mr. Schmalz.
I can go last.
Everybody can go last, sir.
Okay, I can go first. Or second.
That's good. Please. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to raise the microphone for you. Can somebody take care of that, please?
That's where I mentioned it earlier.
Thank you.
I hate looking at you and not the audience.
You can take the mic off and turn around. That's fine with us.
Yes. That's better. That's good. That's better. Thank you very much. My name is Scott Schmerlson. I'm the board member for Ward District 3, and Porter Ranch Community School is in Ward District 3. It's a pleasure to be here. We have made sure that this coming school year, every one of my neighborhood councils will be represented and attended to by either me or by Robert Jackson. Want to say that, Robert? Yeah. Yes, my assistant. So, it's important. There are many neighborhood councils meeting at the same time on the same day. So I will go to one, Robert will go to another. One of us will be at every neighborhood council as during the year, and we do want to hear what you have to say. And I just thought this was very interesting. I have, thank you, about 110 schools that I represent, and I just wanted to tell you about the economy of the United States in comparison to the economy of other countries and what they do for school. So let me find those papers. Let's see. So California is a very rich state, as you know. but a very poor state, you may not know, as far as shelling out money for its schools. So, the largest economy in the world is the following: the United States, followed by China, followed by Japan, followed by Germany, followed by the United Kingdom, followed by California. So we are the 5th largest economy in the world, and we are one of the worst suppliers of money for our public schools. So one of the things that I'm doing, and I hope you're doing, is to talk to our state legislators and let them know that we do need full funding for all of our schools. Where I come from, Philadelphia, on the East Coast, they pay about $10,000 or $12,000 more per student than we do in California. They have very good schools. You pay for them, but you get what you pay for. So my thing is to encourage you guys to please encourage the legislators to fund our schools fairly, okay? So, Mary Melvin. Everyone, I saw you smile when I say Mary Melvin. She is one of my favorite principals in Board District 3. She has received a well-deserved promotion as director right here in Northwest. I know you all love her, and I know Becky was telling you that she was here when the school opened, and you and she and others were so responsible for all the wonderful things that we had. Well, you know, I think Mary deserves a promotion when it's time for a promotion. She did get a well-deserved promotion, and the good thing is, she is a director for about 12 schools in the San Fernando Valley in the West, and she is spreading her knowledge, her kindness, and her just community, love of community to these other principals. So she mentors about 12 different principals, and I'm very happy to say that. And I know that your new principal is here, and you'll be introduced to him, and I will be having a meeting with him too. One of the things that I'm proud of at the district is that we have a new majority at the district. And for a long time, we didn't have committees. And you may not know what committees are, but we used to have committees, and I was the chair of the Special Ed Committee, and I was chair of, what other committee? I did Special Ed, and I did Early Ed, and it's very important for me. Well, committees are back, and I'll be doing Special Ed again and parent involvement. So, our meetings were going to be scheduled at night. Parents' biggest complaint is, I'm working during the day. Well, our meetings will be at 5 or 6, depending. And we will also have video streaming from the Van Nuys courthouse area, so that people don't have to go down to Beaudry. They can actually be at the Van Nuys courthouse and be participating in these meetings, or come down to Beaudry. So look forward to more parent involvement and more special ed intervention. And my last topic is gun safety. And we will be passing this September a resolution for safe gun storage. That when parents register for school, just like all the other papers you fill out, one of them will be that they will safely lock up any firearms that are had at home. And you would be surprised how many parents think that they can put the gun at the top of their closet and nobody knows where it is. Those children know where everything is. They know where your money is in the house. They know everything. So you cannot just hide a gun. It's impossible to hide a gun. So safety, number one, locked guns. And if parents have a child who brings a gun to school from home, they, parents, will be prosecuted. You just have to do that. You just have to do that. Parents must lock guns up. So that's one of the great safety things that we're doing in September. And that's it for me. Thank you very much. Thank you. Questions? Sorry.
Director Schmelzen, before the question, just also, you know our Education Committee Chair, Ming Wan?
Oh.
He's our education committee chair, so.
He's always doing stuff for the teachers and the kids, I know.
So,
Yes, yes.
if he nags you, it's for a good
He
reason.
doesn't have to nag me. You just have to ask me, you got it, I'll be happy to work with you. I'll be happy to work with you. Yes, sir.
All right, David Bailey. So,
David.
as you know, with Port Ranch Community School, we're so ill-funded from LAUSD. So what's the trick? I've sat on the board for, we're going on my 8th year. We raised a ton of money for this school. We get no help from the LAUSD. Zero. So what's our game this year? We have a new principal, and I want to help him out. And you know,
So do I.
We're the fifth
So do I.
largest economy.
Yes.
I'm going to need, we need support.
Okay, if you could kind of let me know what you feel help from LAUSD means, because, you know, besides normally supplying the teachers and supplying money,
Money for our teachers,
additional
money for
money.
our supplies, money for our children. We have, you know, we spent $278,000 for a playground with no assistance from LAUSD.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that, because we are constantly sharing in costs for you. I can't pinpoint exactly what we've done, but we do pinpoint things. You know, I do want to help your school. You have a great PTA here. You have a very generous community that is willing to help. I also have schools that need help also, who are in dire needs because they are so poor that they have nothing. They have, I know you do get it.
Sure.
I know you do get it. The main thing is for the state funding to schools. I mean, that would be the best way to do it. You're the new principal, no?
No.
Who's the new principal? I haven't met him yet.
He's supposed to be here, but he is also double booked, so we're trying to see if he's gonna make
Or he's
it. He's on
gonna
the
make
agenda.
a grand entrance.
There you
Okay. I will
So our
be meeting.
booster works tirelessly.
Oh, I know you do. I met with them. I know you do. I know
So
you
I
do.
know you know this. So
Yes.
I'm just questioning, what's our best plan of action?
I'll tell you what, when I have my meeting with your principal coming up, and David, I will send you the date, maybe someone from PTA or booster could meet with us at the same time and have a group discussion. It's really, really hard. I want to help the most I can. I help with projects when I can. Shade, oh my God, these outdoor shades, you know, they start at $50,000, and then by the time I'm finished, it's $150,000.
That's LAUSD for
Right? Because they have to go to the state architect, and they have to be approved, and it's basically very windy here, so they need special support. I do understand, but you know, the main help would be in Sacramento. But I will include you in our meeting with the new principal.
Thank you.
Okay? Yes, yes. Nick.
I'd like to just ask you a little bit about yourself.
Oh, sure.
You did special ed, where was that, and then what else did you do?
Okay.
What
Well,
grades?
I started as a teacher in Philadelphia. I was a Spanish teacher, and I taught there for 5 years. And I came to LA in 1978 in a big snowstorm in Philadelphia. I said, that's it. I am coming to California.
You and Chief Lloyd?
I went to Virgil Middle School. I was a teacher there, Spanish. I became a counselor there. I became an AP there for 12 years at Virgil Middle School, first in Vermont, downtown. I moved to East LA as assistant principal at Griffith for 5 years. I moved to Lawrence Middle School as principal for 5 years. And my last assignment was Mount Vernon Middle School at Washington and Crenshaw for 10 years. And that is my career with LAUSD, always at a school. Never in an office, always in a school. I know it happens, and I love being in a school. So that's me.
Perfect. Thank you
We need
so
to
much.
move on, David, and then anybody from stakeholders wants to ask a question? Okay, David, please.
I think
Yes,
last
sir.
year, you referenced gun safety, obviously very, very important. I mean, every day, but certainly in today's day and age. And storing a gun in like the top of the closet, I'm sure you already know, but it's illegal in the city if you have minor kids in your house not to have it locked up with a trigger lock or in a safe. Already, it's a long-standing law. Maybe that can be emphasized as part of that process, but that's already existing policy and law.
I will follow
You
through
don't
on
have
there.
to prosecute in
I-
terms of bringing a school, you can also...
I will.
Yeah.
You know, I work with Mike Fuhrer, and this is like the newest thing. Nobody ever mentioned that was
It's been a law for several
in the
years.
city of LA.
In
You
the
must
city of
have a
LA.
lot.
If you have minor children, it has to have a trigger lock or in a safe.
Well, we're really going to make sure that, okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Nope.
No, thank you very much, and we'll be back.
Thank you for
We'll be
your
back.
appreciate it.
We'll be there.
You got it, you got it. Fine? Please, go ahead.
Ryan Valencia, District Director for Assemblywoman Kristen Smith. Thank you guys so much, as always, for having us. We just began session. We gavelled again for the next 4 weeks on Monday. So what you're probably going to see is a lot of bills, hundreds of bills that are going to come before the state legislature as they rush to get to the vote before the September gavel out, and then we will be on break for fall break until January once more. So we'll be doing a lot of things in district. I think for those that have always been reaching out to our office to try and partner, please start to call our office now so that we can begin doing programming in the nearby future during that fall recess through January. And so I just wanted to highlight one of those programs, and that's on August 24th. That's next Saturday. We'll be with Assembly members Nazarian and Gabriel, and we'll be here at the North Valley YMCA for an emergency preparedness town hall. And so I really welcome everyone to come. I have a few flyers that I'll leave on the table over here as I exit, because I have to run to another event as well. But please come by. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 12. We're going to have the LAFD. We're going to have the California Department of Insurance, which is the most interesting part every single time. And the people get the most engaged with the California Department of Insurance, especially as, and I'm sure we have a lot of folks out here in Porter Ranch, but especially we're seeing that in our areas of our district in Abu Dulce, in more unincorporated areas of Santa Cruz, both people's homes, their insurance are not being renewed because they are in a high-risk area. And so that is the nature of Southern California. We are a high-risk area for fires. And so kind of dealing with those new realities, this is really good information that I hope you guys can come by. And I know that some members there will be also talking about earthquake and seismic activity legislation that we're doing in terms of safety. The other thing was I did read my emails this morning. I apologize to Mr. Crown that I know in the crowd. So I did have a statement on my way here as I discussed with the Assembly member regarding a motion in terms of the understandings between the neighborhood councils and the LA Department of Public Health and what you want to see and to understand. Is that correct? Is this the correct place that I entered?
It's really later, but...
Okay, really later. Well, I won't be here a little later. But we just wanted to say in terms of the health study that they were...
Can we expect the process, it is on the agenda?
Okay. All right, I will not be here later. Can I...
If you make statement, that's fine.
Okay, just a statement. Okay. Well, we just want to say good evening, Puerto Ranch Neighborhood Council members. Thank you for your continuing fierce advocacy on behalf of the residents that you represent. Senator Stern and myself are appreciative of you graciously hosting us to conduct our joint oversight committee on the urgent matter of Louisa Canyon. Our discussions and lines of questioning have reinforced the various areas where our agencies were negligent and where we must improve upon. It is imperative to me that the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health and our neighborhood councils not only collaborate for methods of effective communication, but also to achieve our common goals of community engagement, of transparency, and of effective data collection that is avoiding politics. We are appreciative of the good work that our neighborhood councils have put in and the partnership on this issue. We look forward to continuing that work going on. And so please just feel free to reach out to us as you go along in this process, and we're here to be a resource to you. Otherwise, I open it up to questions. We're kind of beginning the legislative month right now, so not too much has happened right now.
Any questions, Mr. Valencia?
Ryan Valencia, like to say.
I just want to thank the Assemblywoman for the hearing. I think she was very powerful and did a great job representing our community. I also would love to work forward with your office on projects with the schools because I know she's very passionate about the schools. Things that we've talked about in our committee, like doing art projects, mural projects, things like that. So we will reach out to you guys, our education committee, and try and see if there's things we can do, events, fun stuff. On the budget, you just saw our school board member speak about the funding issue.
Yes, yes.
So I'd like to see what your thoughts are on that side. I know Christy Smith doesn't necessarily chair a committee on that,
But still serves on the committee on education.
on education.
That's correct.
So is there any kind of game plan, discussion, or anything we can do to advocate? Because I know, like, personally, I didn't speak during Mr. Perlson's time, but basically what we're seeing is supervision on the yard is being cut back by the district. So when you ask what can LAUSD do, is just provide the fundamental supervision of our children. Very basic, because like what David was mentioning about fundraising, we raise not nearly as much as they do at Castle Bay, but we had to spend, I think, $130,000 of our fundraising to cover half of the assistant principal, and the rest was supervision on the yard. It was just basic stuff. I mean, we need the assistant principal. There's no way we can have a half a person. It just doesn't make any sense.
But is that good job or is that?
So,
I think it's a
from the
combined
state
effort. It's a
level,
combined effort.
the funding comes from the state, so it is a state issue, and I'm just kind of piggybacking on it.
Listen, this is exactly why the Assemblywoman ran in the first place. This is her passion issue, is education, coming from a school board as well, from the Newhall School Board out in Santa Clarita. Part of what it is per pupil spending. We've been talking about this for years. It's no secret that California ranks in the bottom 10 of states on per pupil spending. When you look at the individual dollars that was spent per student, there was progress in this budget. That's what we can talk about. We were formerly 46th with the increases that we made to the education portion of our budget. It is the #1 piece of the state budget, and that is, we're going to rank about 42nd, I believe, now with that increase, but it's still not enough. And so the ongoing kind of conversation that we have to have is where we get that revenue stream from, and where we try to fund education. But it's no short.
Can I just say 1 second?
Can we give
Can I say
opportunity to others?
one sentence?
We are short on time. Mehran?
We invite you to our school to
Absolutely.
meet with the principal.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
No, you're not.
Moving forward, we have a protocol with the neighborhood council. I'm the chair of the school and education. Any project and any discussion should go through me.
Okay.
That's how it is. I will be in contact with you and discuss.
Okay.
Anybody else has a question for Mr. Valencia? Stakeholders, any questions, Mr. Valencia? Fine, thank you very much.
Please reach out to our office. There's no
Thank
problem.
you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Chair Begonia on behalf of Supervisor Catherine Barger. I too have to run out here in a little bit as soon as I'm done with my presentation, so I won't be here for later in the agenda regarding the health setting, and I apologize for that. But some of you might be familiar with the construction taking place on the other side of that, just a little bit further down at 118. That's a project called the Deer Lake Project, and we have a monitoring committee that helps oversee the construction of that project, and I'll be running to the Radisson to participate in that meeting. That project, just in case if you're interested, it's a 300 home development, equestrian in nature, and it will remain in unincorporated Los Angeles County, meaning it will not be part of the city, it will be part of the unincorporated area. A couple of the benefits associated with the project include we're going to have a sheriff's substation right outside right at Topanga on the 118, right where you enter the Twin Lakes community, which is another unincorporated community of Los Angeles County. And we have a dedicated trail system that's going to connect to Porter Ranch through Browns Canyon. Once the project is, once the county takes those trails over, it will connect into the Porter Ranch area, Chatsworth, and the Oak Mountain, etc. And phase 1 of the construction is actually getting ready to take place. That's why one of the reasons why we're having this meeting tonight. I do want to touch on a couple of things before I go into anything specific regarding the release of Canyon and Porter Ranch. First and foremost, I appreciate School Board Member Commissioner Nelson being here. Supervisor Barger and Supervisor Hahn did a joint press conference Monday in Torrance, at Torrance High School, to highlight the fact that we've increased our mental health teams from 10 to 42 that work directly with our school district across LA County. That started right here as a pilot with LA Unified, and it's an anti-school violence prevention. The supervisor feels very strongly that mental health is an important aspect in how we work on school violence and combat school violence, and we are increasing the opportunities for school districts and including LA Unified, to partner with the county mental health department in identifying issues before they arise at our school district. So we're happy that we've gone from 10 to 42 countywide. One last thing I want to talk about that does have some connections to Aliso Canyon. Supervisor Barker has given very specific direction regarding, I call this Stool of Three, and how we look at our dependence on natural gas as it relates to Aliso Canyon. One is open space preservation, the other is the health study that will be discussed later tonight, and the third is looking at how the county's overall reliance on natural gas and how that plays into gas storage, gas reliability, energy reliability. The county adopted last week the very first county sustainability plan. It's a very comprehensive plan that addresses environment and energy and how the county moves forward regarding our energy resiliency, energy reliance, and
Can you grab the microphone closer?
Better?
They're asking in the back, but they can't hear.
got it. So we adopted our first sustainability plan. There's 85 action plans within that plan itself. 3 of them discuss electrification and decarbonization. That's as a direct result to try and reduce our dependency on natural gas. Just yesterday, Supervisor Barker introduced a motion directing our county sustainability office and the county public works department to begin studying portions of that sustainability plan as it relates to decarbonization and electrification. Very specifically to look at how we can reduce our reliance on natural gas and what the county's energy needs will be in the future as the county continues to develop our sustainability plan and as it continues to develop our energy resiliency. And so that's the third leg of the stool. It's a very long-term process. It's a very long-term process in talking about the county-wide energy needs, but she thinks it's a very important tool moving forward in how we look at the county's use of natural gas. And with that, I'll take any questions.
I have a question for you, Gary.
Yes, it's on.
On the last point that you made, there is an ongoing proceeding at the PUC to address the electrification of home heating and home gas use. And as you know from the articles in the LA Times, the gas company is trying to do a runaround by creating an advocacy group for renewable gas that turns out is fully funded by the gas company to be a party in the proceedings. Would the county supervisor consider taking a motion or sending the letter to the proceeding presiding judge in support of the electrification of the grid and the push to move away from natural gas to electrifying homes?
I don't see an issue with that. As you well know, the county's a party to those proceedings as well. County council?
Maybe, I don't know.
think
Not the
so.
proceedings that I'm involved in.
Okay.
It's a different ongoing proceeding just about electrification.
Okay, you know what? I think you're right. I think because the proceedings of the county is part of the specific to Aliso Canyon. You're right. I don't see an issue. We can simply send a letter to the PUC saying what you have said and also showing what motions the board has adopted these last 2 weeks.
That would be much appreciated.
Sure.
Thank you. David?
So you started to mention about the trails that are going to be with the new development. So does the county have the jurisdiction of the trails that lead? We have more trails than anywhere per capita in Los Angeles up here. The problem that we're having in the beautification committee, we've just done a complete, killing off, taking away all the old trees off the campus over. So the problem is that all these trails that we have are being covered, they're being buried. And then they're being taken over by poison oak and everything. The problem that we found out through Parks and Recs is that the machine that we had disappeared. So there's no way to clean these trails. So people are having to walk through branches and trees, down trees. And so my question to you, is there a way for us to get that equipment back to Parks and Recs, or what do you recommend to clean out all these trails that people use on a daily basis?
So, David, I can tell you from a county perspective, right now, we do not have an extensive county trail system within Port Ranch, Chatsworth area right now. When the county takes over the Deer Lake trails, that will be the first. Well, it won't be the first, but it'll be the most significant acquisition of trails that the county has received and the county will be responsible for maintaining. The city still has more of a trail system, more miles of trail system in the Northwest Valley than the county is. Very soon we will. Very soon the county probably will as soon as we take over the Deer Lake trails. The county has a very extensive trail maintenance system, and we don't have those same
Can we
issues.
borrow it?
Yeah.
Can we borrow it?
Yeah. We don't have the same issues, a lot of the same issues that the city has regarding their trail maintenance. We have a trail.
It's horrendous.
We have a dedicated trails team that goes out and takes care of a lot of our trail maintenance issues. I think I reported in the past, we just adopted the San Diego Trails Master Plan, Phase 1 and Phase 2. And that includes Porter Ranch and Aliso Canyon and kind of links Granada Hills and Chatsworth and Santa Clarita and our trail system. So the county system will be tested in the future because we will have significantly more trails within the system. We just don't have those issues right now in this area because we don't have any trails.
Any other questions? Stakeholders?
Hi, how are you, Jared? Thank you for all that you do for us. I was wondering a question. When Supervisor Barber took her office, Michael Markish had been over the Department of Public Health. And so then I think because Barber was a bit newer, Sheila Kuehl kind of oversaw the Department of Public Health. Is that still the case, or has Barber taken that role back as an overseeing of the Department of Public Health?
Just as a background for everybody, the Health Board of Supervisors operates is different agencies and different departments are assigned to the different board members and their board offices. So our county planning department is overseen by our office. The sheriff's department is overseen by another office, etc. So county health at one point in time was under the review of Supervisor Antonovich. Shortly after Supervisor Barber election, Supervisor Kuehl was assigned that. That's the last time I remember. It's very much a ceremonial thing more than anything else. There's not a whole lot of policy that's driven through there because the board still has to adopt a policy. But there's a little bit of benefit to it. And right now, I believe it's still Kuehl, I'm not positive.
Okay, thank you. You take my question.
All right. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Jasmine? It's up to them. As long as you have 6.
Thank you.
Hello. Could you please introduce yourself to the new people?
Yes. Hello? Okay. Hi, my name is Jasmine O'Burnbury. I'm the Neighborhood Empowerment Advocate for the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council. I'm trying not to have my back to anyone. I will be brief.
I don't mind, it's okay. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Be brief, be bright, and be gone. And by gone, I mean I'll stick around if anyone has questions. The main update for you for next month, if you can please agendize approval of a stipulation worksheet, because council passed the neighborhood council reforms, and part of that is the addition of a youth seat. I know you have that on the agenda for tonight, but we were still going to need you to fill out the stipulation worksheet, which will be released in next month's profile, letting us know how you want that change to be made to the bylaws.
Can we get an email on that?
Yes. No problem. And then also, we sent out in the monthly profile a demographic survey. We asked for that before elections. We're asking for it again now. So please fill that out. If you need the link again, I'm happy to send it to you. And then the third update is that the Congress of Neighborhoods is the last Saturday of September. So please consider attending. It's a great event full of all-day workshops. And it's great for new board members and also any stakeholders that want to attend and learn more about other neighborhood councils, about the city, about other departments. Every department has a booth, so you can ask them your questions. And that is all for my update, unless anyone has questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Jasmine? Thank you. Any other comments? All right, thank you very much. Item 6 was introducing conversation with incoming PRCS principal. Unfortunately, the principal realized that he was double booked today. He was going to try to come back later in the meeting if we're here, so without objection, I would like to just put that item on standby, hoping if he comes, then we can have him introduce himself. Otherwise, we will add him to the agenda for next month. Okay, item 7, budget advocates.
Right.
Okay, I'm Brian Allen. I'm with Granada Hills North Neighborhood Council, and I am the budget advocate for this council. The budget advocates have just recently gone back into function. We have been, we ended our year on the 29th of June, and we started the new one on the 29th of June. And we have elected new officials for our group. We have begun now to establish representatives for each department, and many of the departments are now assigned to budget advocates, and we will be meeting with them as early as we possibly can. There are going to be some early deadlines. I don't know if we have them listed here, and I don't want to take up the time reading this, but we did send this information out to your council. I hope you all saw it in terms of what we did in the last month. This month, we're just getting started again, as I said, and we're looking for feedback as to what you're looking for us to address these departments. There are many things that come up in the year. Every month, there are new things that somebody thinks of, but we'd love to have that information provided to us, so the more that we can get from anyone, the better. We are also seeing an influx of budget reps attending our meetings. Now, it's only been a couple of meetings, and I don't know if that's going to continue. We hope it will, but there have been more than in the past at this time. So we still are asking budget reps to attend and take part in the meetings that we will have with the departments in order to develop a better sense of what needs do we think the city should address. Is there anything else that you can think of, Glenn?
Contribution?
Indeed, I don't always ask for contributions from the councils, but that is the way we are able to function, the way we're able to put on budget day. It's the way we're able to get the white paper out, and so we do have a need for funds. So if you could agendize a donation, a contribution to the budget advocates, we would certainly appreciate that, and the more the merrier. But obviously we're reasonable.
And as I asked Jasmine, it would be best if we can get it in an email.
Absolutely.
It's in the report. What we sent out at the end of July has a paragraph about it.
Yeah, there is a form that you can fill out. And we'll make sure, if you don't have it, contact us. We'll make sure you do get it again. Anything else?
I'll make a comment on, so you know the two budget reps, right? It's David Lasher and myself. So just FYI, so our budget, we've allocated $2,500 for MPGs, and usually I think the MPG would come from you guys.
It
would be an MPG, okay.
Special environment, and there's a form that you just have to fill out.
Oh, I got you.
It's the same as Congress and et cetera.
But I want to talk about like the topics. So I guess the whole idea, like what David was saying, one of the things that came up in our tree project is we realized that these trails aren't being maintained, specifically Wilbur Tampa Park. And the Rex and Parks people informed us that they took away their skid steer, and so they don't have the proper equipment. So like specific things like that in meetings with like Public Works, Rex and Parks and things like that. But I'd also like to reach out to the board as well, because all of you guys have expertise in your own areas, and the whole point is like us as a board should collaborate to give this gentleman our requests from the city, whether it be, and these are all the city departments here. I have the white paper here. It's all online, but if you're interested in a particular department, like this one says city attorney or LAPD, you can go on there and read all the recommendations from last year, and then that brings your mind to think about what we need here in Port Ranch. So David and I need help to get that information. We'll start a draft, but we would like input from everybody, and if each of you guys can think about focusing on some specific departments, then that would help, and just kind of communicate with us. And then we can provide the information to Brian, and then he goes to the departments, right?
I think I can speak for all three of the budget advocates for Region 2.
Yeah.
And that if you come up with something, if you have ideas or you have questions, feel free to call us, contact us in one way or another, and we'll meet with you to go over what you're thinking and help develop the questions that you want to ask.
So like David and I would be good to do that, but we'd like to hear from the other board members as
And
well.
don't leave your stakeholders out.
And the stakeholders too. Maybe we can agendize it, but when does that due? Like that
As soon as you
possible.
could do it, exactly.
Maybe we could agenda it at the next meeting.
We're trying to get all of the meetings established before the end of September. And so that doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean the meeting's going to happen by that time, but we're trying to get the meetings established, and at that point, we're developing questions and developing our opinions of what we're looking for and the discussions we want to have with the departments.
Right.
So that input would be very valuable.
Thank you.
Any other board questions, comments?
Are you guys asking for money?
No, so this is the city budget?
I know what it is, but were you
The
asking?
answer is yes.
Oh,
The
we
budget
did.
advocate.
Oh, me.
The budget
I'd rather
advocate,
see money go to the police department, which is bought last year, first, before we do anything.
I'm not asking for any money.
Well, I
David,
know what I
I do know what you're saying, and nobody's suggesting that everybody has to. It's that we don't function without it, and we're a fairly important area of the city because we have access to and input in
I was a
the
budget
total
advocate,
budget.
and I'm very.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Dave, I echo what Jason said, and certainly want input, of course, from the board and the stakeholders. And then beyond that, I suggest on the Empower LA website, there's some great videos of what the budget advocates and representatives have been doing, and they're publicly available.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, stakeholders, Andrew, you had a...
Yeah, it would just be seemingly important that the city actually budget for the budget advocates
Yeah.
going forward, so that you are not coming to the neighborhood councils.
The city does contribute $10,000.
10,000 is all they get, yes.
That is the total the city gets. The rest of the money comes from PNCs.
It would be lovely that you come up with what it, in the last maybe couple of years, what you really need, and have the city, if the city views this as such a valuable connection, which I believe it is, that they actually put their money where their mouth is.
I can't argue with that comment.
Sure.
Yes, not everybody in this room went to Civic University, knows what a white paper is, so could you just, in like less than 10 sentences, tell us what a white paper is and how the fiscal year works, and it's a year behind, so that the room knows what you're talking about?
The white paper is basically a review of what we have done as budget advocates for the year in our communication with all departments, or as many as we can get to, of the city departments. With that, we develop recommendations. Those recommendations are put together in individual write-ups on each department, and then there is a central white paper in the book we call a white paper. White paper is used in two areas. And that white paper of 4 or 5 pages identifies the 6, 7, 8, 10 most important issues that we see for that year.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Mr. Brad?
Okay, next item is item 8, and as they're powering up the projector, we just went to sleep. I'd like to introduce our speakers today. We have Mr. Razmik Manukin, the Director of Water Quality at LADWP. Tom Daler is here as well, and Christine Holland sitting in the chair there. At the last meeting, one of the stakeholders, who is not here today, so he will hear from me, he said, you know, we get this card in the mail, I go online to look at the report, water quality report, I did not understand what it did, what it says. Can we have somebody come and talk to us about LAWP's water quality? So we reached out, what?
You struggle to understand it?
That's what she was saying. So I told her, we'll be glad to invite her to come here. And so they are here today to give us a 20-minute full discussion, presentation and discussion. But before we start, for the purpose of full disclosure, we're not taking any decision here, it's just a presentation from them. However, I want everybody to know that in my normal life, I do water quality services to LADWP as well as other water agencies, and LADWP is one of the people I work for, so that's for full disclosure. So, Raz, it's all yours.
Thank you.
Something about myself before Becky says, who are you? I've been working for the department 30 years in operations, water quality, distribution, planning. Right now, for the last 6 months, I'm the water quality director. I'm being assisted by Tom Taylor and Chris here. But, Dr. Najm asked me to come, and it was at the same time I was rolling out, based on the annual water quality report, I was going to alliance meetings to roll out what we've done for the last 20 years. So it wasn't just the report. I saw a lot of things that we've done over the last 20 years. And that's what I want to talk. So I want to talk about a little bit of that. I want to talk about regulations, how we started in Los Angeles, benefits we got from all these projects, and last but not least, I'm going to compare with bottled water, our competition. So this is a chart of regulations in the last 100 years. In 1914, we had 2 regulations. Today we've got 104 from, whoops. So 104 from federal, and I can't read it, like 16 from state. And we're measuring particulates, contaminants in the parts per million, parts per billion. A million gallon is a football field 3 feet deep. A billion gallon is a football field 3,000 feet deep. We're measuring particles in that realm. On the side there, there's some regulations that came about in the last 20 years. And I'm not going to get in detail of what it is. Basically, it said cover the reservoirs and minimize disinfection byproducts, which I'll get into. So something to be said, in 1910, we started using a trace amount of chlorine to purify the water. And until 1987, that's all we did. And with that, all waterborne illnesses disappeared and the world population increased like crazy. So the first regulation, let's go what it was. It's about cups, don't share cups. That's how simple it was. You can see that drinking from the same cup with chains attached. So that was the first regulation. There it is. And then jumping ahead, I said we didn't do anything until 1987. Safe Drinking Water Act came about and said you need to filter the water. You got to do more. So in 1987, we built our filter plant, state-of-the-art filter plant. And in conjunction with that, going to people's homes, we cement lined all unlined pipes in the city, which took us about 25 years. And we ended that in the year 2005. So with those regulations I showed you earlier, the city spent $2 billion over the last 20 years improving water quality. And I'll get into what all that was. The first rule came about in 1989, that's the surface water treatment rule. It said you can't have a reservoir like Encino here that's unlined, that's got slopes that has wind coming in and birds and animals flying around. Even though you treated it, you can't have this, and we had to bypass it. Some of you endured some of the projects we did with that to take Encino offline and build some pipelines on Burbank and Magnolia. Something to be said about Encino, that's a 3 billion gallon reservoir. That's huge. It's still there. If there's an earthquake or if we need it, we can still place it in service if we're running out of water, if there's bigger problems. This is a last resort. We've got our own supplies. We've got Metropolitan Water District backup. That's our wholesaler. But it's still available for the valley. Hollywood reservoirs we took out in 2001, replaced them with buried tanks, 2 30 million gallon tanks right there. Right there. So I'm going to skip through these fast because I have 20 minutes. Lower Stone, we took that out in 2006. That's another 3 billion gallon reservoir. That can supply the west side all the way down to Marina Del Rey, all the way down to Harbor Shoestring also. So we thought we were done. In 2006, they came out with more regulations. They said your smaller reservoirs, although they're lined and taken care of, they still didn't want them in service. Here's the Legion that serves downtown. We had to put a floating cover on it. This is Headworks. This is right across Forest Lawn. You might have seen it, big construction going on. So that's 2 buried structures, 110 million gallon reservoir, and that's replacing Silver Lake and Ivanhoe that supplies downtown. So this is critical, it supplies downtown. This is Upper Stone Canyon. We just finished covering this. We finished the project and put it in service 2 weeks ago. So San Ynez, this is on Pacific Palisades. That picture is a picture of an algae bloom we had in the past when it wasn't covered. So you can see the water is green, and customers used to get that, and I'd have to answer complaints why the water's got a green tint in the bathtub. They see it in the bathtub, not in the tub. So, you know, today you can get a cup of that at Starbucks, ask for a matcha latte. So here's how it should look. That's a clean, that's what we provide, and here's the real project. Beyond covering the reservoirs, they said there's a couple of microorganisms that ozonation, filtration, coagulation, flocculation, filtration, chlorination doesn't take care of. It's called Giardia and Cryptosporidium. So we had to go beyond the normal, and we had to build an ultraviolet UV plant. So these are reactors. Each pipe has a UV lamp in it. There's 6 lamps that radiate the water and take care of, those are the most difficult microorganisms, but it's killing a lot more than that along the way. So here's another plant we're building outside of LA Reservoir. This is all in Silmar. Disinfection byproduct rules. So something to be said, all those algae blooms, we used to hit it with chlorine to kill it, to make the water look good. So we put chlorine in the water, LA Complex, it goes to Stoner, and then Encino will put chlorine again. So the regulation said you can't put too much chlorine because it has a byproduct. It's like taking a pill and it's got a side effect. So with covering all the reservoirs, and then putting shade balls on LA Reservoir, we cut the chlorine use. This is another 3 billion gallon reservoir. It's at our Silmar complex. And with those shade balls, we were able to eliminate 50% of the chlorine use in the city. So where's the shade ball? Beyond that, we used to treat with just chlorine, and the combination of chlorine with a little bit of ammonia is called chloramines. And that disinfectant is milder and it lasts longer in the distribution system, all the way to your homes, all the way into high-rise and large buildings. So that's another change we did in 2014 to meet regulations. So we do a lot of water quality testing throughout the system, make sure everything is good. Now I'm drilling down to the annual water quality report, which we put some on the table, and I've got more in the box here. This report is a report card of how well we did in 2018. So you got tables in there that show various constituents and the levels we had in our system. The good news is, with all those projects we did, and after spending $2 billion, all the established safe limit for drinking water by the EPA and the State Division of Drinking Water, the levels they set that are safe were 50% below that. So we're doing really good, and I want everyone to know that and have confidence in the water they're drinking. And let me say one more, let me go to the next page. No, let me stay here. So this report, I was going to say something about your supply. This is the valley, North Valley. So the report identifies LA filtration plant water, groundwater. We don't get groundwater up here. So your water supply is Sierra snowmelt. It comes from Eastern Sierra or Western Sierra. It's snowmelt you're getting. The groundwater doesn't make it up here. So when you look at the table, you only need to look at the first column that applies to you. So we monitor customer complaints. For the last 20 years, customer complaints have gone down from 3,600 a year down to about 700. It's a 75% reduction. It's a testament to how much the water quality has improved. I can point to this map and tell you, this is where Encino and Hollywood and Stone went out of service, and then the smaller reservoirs. At this point, the complaints are mostly customer and their premises. You've got old plumbing. When you turn the water on first, it might come out rusty. So those are most of the complaints. Or we have main break or a hyper knockout, something like that. Something to be said, I already mentioned maintaining plumbing. You know your plumbing at your house, whether you replace it or how the water quality comes in, how it tastes. So I'm going to give you a perfect example. I went back here, the drinking fountains, no one's touched them. I let the water run a little bit, I took a sip, it's very metallic. No one's drinking that. So, you know, if I'm in a high rise and it's Monday morning, no one using the water, and the first sip I take is metallic, I'm not, that's it. You know, I know it's copper right here, but no one's using it. That's an example. So, you know, let me keep going.
Do you let it run for a moment to taste better?
You're right about that, but this place needs a little more than a moment. It needs maybe 5 minutes because it's, you know, I'm sure the plumbing you have to be somewhere the water's moving. It's off the bathrooms actually, so the bathrooms are flowing, so maybe 2-3 minutes you'll be fine. But I did run it for maybe 30 seconds, then clear out.
So if they were constantly going, then it would be okay, like if somebody was constantly using it, it wouldn't have to be each time they
Exactly, like in my house I have a refrigerator unit, and my house got a high use, so it's got no problems. Our downtown building has no problem because we've got employees that believe in the product and they're drinking it all the time, so. And you know, there's another thing about...
That's great, I know Marty and he's like, it's fine,
Okay.
but I'm still a little...
There's another thing about aesthetics is if you've got a drinking fountain that looks bad and it's not clean, no one approaches it. And these days, people like the fill stations. They like to drink water this way, they don't like the fountain bubbler. So there's perception issues. We get people, we have some on a ground floor level with a bottle filler, they line up for that versus other places. So we do provide water quality. If you have a water quality problem, you can call our number and we'll analyze it over the phone. And if we can't figure it out or see there's something more or you need assistance, we will send someone to your house to assist you. Usually a water quality complaint comes from our 800 number, but you can call our number directly, our water quality hotline. So while we were spending $2 billion to meet all these regulations, you had the bottling company switching from soft drinks and Coca-Cola to let's bottle water. So they take good water or groundwater and they purify it at a high level. It's called reverse osmosis. When they do that, it has no taste. What they do is add minerals back in, calcium, magnesium, to make it taste better. So the difference is, the reality is, the level they treat at, they remove almost everything. Their quality is better. But then they put in plastic bottle, these plastic bottles, and it has a shelf life of 2 years. The smaller the bottle, the 8-ounce bottles are the worst ones. You got more plastic contact. So as a concerned consumer, I called bottling companies and I said, well, it tastes like plastic. Then they get into details. Where'd you store it? Is it in a hot area? You're not supposed to keep it in a hot area. In the valley here, maybe it's sitting on pallets at Whole Foods over here. It's a nice store, I went by. So, you know, they don't have control for that 2 year with that bottled water. And you can form plastic taste, microplastics. So those are things, when I ask them for data 2 years out, they don't have it. 5 years ago, we had years of BPA and we consumed that and it's gone by, but there's no claim or illness related to that. So what I want to say is, trust your tap water and use a cooler, put some mint in it and ice, and have a party, and if they ask where it's from, say it's from France.
Works.
So it's a convenience thing, I get it. I buy some, it's a convenience thing, you're going to go somewhere, you do it. Go ahead.
What about the water filter? You buy a filter, put it in the water. Does it help more?
I'm for filters. I have a filter on my refrigerator. It's a carbon filter. All it does is remove the chlorine and improves taste a little bit. It's fine either way, but I'm not for doing extensive reverse osmosis at your house, or if you don't have a hard water problem, doing a whole water softening system, those are excessive. So.
I have a quick question that ties in with emergency preparedness. What do you recommend as being a longtime employee of the DWP that we should do we all near faults to store water that has a 4 to 5 year shelf life, that instead of just the plastic bottles that get in our garage and get ruined from the heat.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, those only have 2 years and yeah,
Would you recommend cans or what?
I like the bigger bottles, the 5 gallons.
Plastic?
Yeah, but they do have emergency supply, special bottles that last 5 years or 10 years, you can buy like that.
What do you have at your house?
I have a 5 gallon,
Oh,
but I don't put it in the garage.
Where do you put it?
In the house. It's got air conditioning.
Closet or something?
It needs to be in room temperature or?
Yeah, room temperature is fine. Yeah, or cooler is fine.
Okay, I got a couple questions here. I heard those shade balls aren't working. The
Who
way
said
they
that?
expected. I read an article. Are they working?
They're working very well.
They are beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, the primary reason is for not treating algae blooms with chlorine. We haven't used chlorine for 4 or 5 years.
Okay, the other thing is, I also read an article where they put water fountains in communities that house homeless people, and they're washing their clothes and bathing in. How sanitary is it for us to drink out of those water fountains? Is there a problem with that?
Okay, we're doing this because of the homeless issue. So we're putting temporary drinking fountains by the fire hydrants.
They're using them as bathtubs.
Well, see, the water,
How safe
your
is it?
sanitation is cleaning them daily. But you know, that's on the surface. If I'm gonna go test my water, I'm testing what's coming out of the faucet. First thing I do is disinfect the faucet. I can't have that effect. So, but these are areas that they're breaking them, they're getting stolen, so it's not somewhere I would recommend.
And can I add something to that? They're not in basins, so I'm not sure about the validity of washing clothes in it.
Oh, yeah, I saw it on TV.
They showed it? Okay.
But and
So, but I do want to check and see what we're doing about that, so I'll get back to you on
Just to be
that.
sure it's safe, I know.
Yes.
The other thing is, and this is not a long question, EWP has a tour, Owens River Tour.
Yeah.
And it's an excellent tour that they offer several times a year. And I know that many times I've suggested to people in this group, call EWP and sign up for it. It's a 2-day trip, fully paid for, and it's amazing. You learn so much about water. You're still offering that program?
Yes.
And you leave out of the sanitation plants or the Silmar.
Purification plant, yeah, filtration plant. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do, and somebody attending that tour would need to be a board member.
Okay, I've gone 2 or 3 times, so can you send us information? Because I think the board should really go, it's really.
Yeah, and I do route that at the beginning of each year. We have 3 more this year. There could be some cancellations, so I'll send you that tomorrow.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, maybe it leads kind of to the next segment. So it seems like the water quality is very good to almost excellent. This is very cheap, this is what we get out of the faucet tap, and we don't have to pay a lot of money for it. There is this false myth out there that the bottled waters are safe, that the quality of the water in the city, a lot of people, a lot of friends I know, they actually don't drink, they have to buy bottled water. Have you, and there's been reports out there about the bottled waters actually not being so safe. There was a report recently that actually ranked some of them having some very high levels of certain chemicals. As DWP, are you able to kind of compare your quality, the quality of the water that you drink, with certain brand names and kind of put it out to the public? Because a lot of people really don't know that perhaps the water, at least in certain segments, is better out of a faucet than a bottle.
You got a good question, and the comparison, you see this report, they have their own report if you go on the website. Their numbers look better, but like I explained earlier, they don't have an answer for the plastic 2 years out. So that's the difference, is they don't have
the DPA factor,
yeah, which they stopped 5 years ago, but yeah. So it's you know, when you're talking in these micro levels, it's tough to, you know, the tap water meets regulations by 50%. It exceeds. We're 200% better than the regulations, but they're higher but they're in a bottle, that's the difference. So yeah, I've been in this job 6 months, I want to do more, including we're doing the fountains and marketing, so there's a lot of work to be done. But as a government agency, we just take care of business, we're not out there for marketing. I'm not putting 24 packs in front of you for $2.99 in the market. That's tough to compete with. Yeah. Thank you. Wow. Next.
In 2017, at a town hall that Dr. Jeffrey Nordella put on in Northridge, there was evidence of extremely high levels of lithium in a number of water tests done in the San Fernando Valley. That was compared with water tests done, I believe, in the Conejo Valley, Simi Valley, and other areas not fed by DWP, where there was virtually no detectable lithium in the water. At that meeting, there was a representative from LADWP and some understanding publicly of some collaboration. There was no assertion of where the lithium came from, only that in the work that Dr. Nordella was doing with regard to Aliso Canyon, that lithium was found in the water. Blank statement. No accusations, no, just we found this, here you go. Can we get together and work so that somebody can figure out what's going on? That died the moment that town hall ended. There was no reaching out, no collaboration. So it has been 18-ish months since we're here getting a water quality study. I'm bringing that back to you again. There are a number of tests. I'm sure that data can still be provided for you guys to look at, and I'm sure a willingness of collaboration to figure out where that might have come from.
You're right. The only thing you're not right is a very high level of lithium. The lithium level is in this report. We've been testing for it since that discovery. It's 80 parts per billion. That's like $80 on $1 billion. So let me say something else. The chart I showed earlier with all the regulations, our regulators don't see lithium as a hazard. I'm regulated on 120 contaminants. Lithium is not rated as a high-ranking contaminant. So I'm an engineer. I rely on EPA, Division of Drinking Water, and the medical industry to tell me which ones are my target. Lithium isn't on it. I don't even have a limit of what's safe or not, because at 80 it's safe. And maybe Tom knows a little more. I wasn't in the division at the time, but that's a simple answer. And this, okay, where it was coming from, you asked. Our water comes from Mammoth, the Eastern Sierra. So we discovered where it's coming from. It's geothermal. We have something called a hot creek. So hot creek produces lithium and it produces arsenic. So we remove, the arsenic is a target. We remove that to the lowest level we can.
I would point you, if you did not, out of that town hall, also take back a study out of, oh, I forgot where. Correct me, help me out. Sweden, the study of 750,000 people.
It was in Norway, and came back resounding that lithium in the water contributed to dementia.
How high?
It was 20, what they considered high was 25 parts per billion. You're telling us it's 80. They considered 25 or 30, I believe it was, as
We
high.
put out a statement, I apologize, I cut you off.
Well, just what Norway considers high is absolutely less than 40 to my recollection, best of my recall at the moment. And you're already saying that it's 80, so.
And I wanted to say two things in particular. I was also at that town hall, and it was a couple years ago, so I don't remember exactly everything that was discussed, but we did put out a statement immediately after that, and we did engage. And nothing ever was brought back to us. My recollection of that study was quite the opposite, was that it prevented the onset of dementia. I could be completely wrong about that, but I will dig the statement out and I'll send that along with the other thing, the Owens tour information.
You know, the other thing that, look, it's easy to say the EPA doesn't have a standard. That doesn't mean that it's surely okay.
And that's why we're testing it, and I think that's what Raz was saying. We don't have to, but we are.
Well, thank you for that, right? Because now we have exposure to it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is a pharmaceutical that you have to get a prescription for. So the community does have concerns. Because we not only find it in water, but we also found it in toxicology studies of the population. So.
And it
it's a
was
concern.
and do you want to refresh how many parts per billions that was?
Yeah, it's 80, I just said it, it's 80 parts per billion in our supply. You know, I just asked Tom what, because he was there, and they looked at what's the technique to remove it. So everything I'm doing, it's a really difficult compound to remove. So if you get into removing something like that, you're talking in a billions of dollars of a process to get rid of it. So some things aren't easily removed. If it was, we would have done it.
Okay, that's fair. I'm curious, why is DWP water contain lithium where Simi Valley is 30 to 20 miles away?
Because of the hot, they don't get supply from our Eastern Sierra, the hot creek, it's a geothermal thing.
So this is a sourcing issue?
Yeah.
And there's no alternatives here?
No, I mean, you know, it's a huge dollar issue. The supply we get from our own aqueduct is a huge cost saving versus buying from WD or other sort of sources. Yeah, something to be said, when we have a wet year, we get all Eastern Sierra. When we had 5 years of drought, that supply was actually down to 20–30%. So you're always getting a blend. When you get our water here, it's from two sources: from our own aqueduct, which has lithium, or from the state water project. From Sacramento Bay Delta area, that doesn't have lithium. Well, there, down to 20, right? I saw in the report. So, but then you're picking up bromide because of saltwater intrusion. So everything's got something to it.
I'm sorry, last question.
You want to go next slide? So
It's fine, it is my last one then.
Your name, please? I'm sorry, ma'am.
Christine
Hall. Oh, Christina Hall.
Christine, you were at the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I think Ms.
I
Jones.
recorded it.
Ms. Jones was?
Yes.
Okay. She had an exchange with Dr. Mardell. They were supposed to follow up directly. I spoke to Dr. Mardell earlier today. He wanted me to pass along that he has still not heard from Mrs. Jones, or perhaps he can hear from you to go over details.
That wouldn't be me, but I'll pass it along.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And your name is
How much time do you have for us?
I'm
Your last name?
Oh,
Galanti?
Yeah, happy to talk to you after.
other questions?
Thank you for your time.
Good question.
David? Behind you, Brad, behind you.
It was more prevalent during the drought, but we were constantly getting announcements about save the water, save this. The city rolled out the save the drop character. What are we doing to stop the 300 million gallons of water we're pumping out of Hyperion into the ocean?
Okay, so that's, he's got a big question. The mayor's got an initiative to look at Hyperion, taking it to an advanced treatment and putting in groundwater and drainage back in the system. So that's our, that's a planning project, and sorry about that, I'm turning my back on it. But that's a planning process that involves a lot. So when you're taking treated sewage to high levels of treatment and then spreading and bringing it back up, it's got a big dollar tag to it. It does offset our wholesale purchases from MW that keep going up, but they're working on it, and it's got a lot of hurdles.
300 million gallons a day is a tremendous amount.
300 million gallons a day is half the supply of the city, well, more than that, it's about half, a little more than half. It's a big number.
All right. Last one. Any last question, please?
I've often read about pharmaceutical residues besides the lithium in water supplies. Do you test for other pharmaceuticals?
We don't see that our supply doesn't have pharmaceuticals.
We do. Any other?
Okay, we got groundwater and which is 10% formula, but we do any supply. We do a full sweep of analysis once every so often, but you don't do it every day, and we don't have pharmaceuticals come from the groundwater. But what he's talking about, that would be a prime concern. All right?
One question.
Okay, let's take her.
You said that our area comes from the
Eastern Sierras, yeah.
What about the East Valley? Are they still getting water from underground wells?
So, we do have groundwater wells in North Hollywood, and the wells that our poor producers are off, and we're doing groundwater projects to mitigate that. But when you look at the report, even though all the contaminants we measured, there's still 50% below regulation. So, yeah, we're not pushing limits on
But those
it.
wells are still contaminated.
Not all of them, some of them are.
Only the ones that are clean. are in production
We only
and
issue clean
use.
ones in production.
The ones that are contaminated aren't in use, and we have 3 different projects going on for well cleanup. And I can show you back sheets on those too, a little bit of, but it's a big deal. We need to get a lot of groundwater. It's a big initiative.
Hassan, quick last
Yes.
question, please. Where do you take your samples for analysis of the water quality?
We take it throughout the distribution system. We've got 200 locations, special sample caps we will take samples from and from reservoirs.
So it's not always at the end point or at the source?
No, it's throughout the distribution. That's the most important thing. We want to make sure it's, the number one thing we're testing for is bacteria throughout the system.
All right, Raz, thank you very much for being here.
Okay, we are burning on time, so I'm going to open public comment on items not on the agenda, and I'm going to ask for a quick 2 minutes. Please step up to the mic
Okay.
and let's do this.
Okay, I just want to remind everyone, a month from today, September 14th, there's going to be a community town hall featuring Dr. Mandela. It's going to be a not-to-be-missed event. It's going to be at Temple Haravat Shalom, and everyone should know where that is by now, but it's on Rinaldi Place. And starts at 1, goes to 4 p.m., and supposedly he's going to be giving a lot of information that we haven't heard before, so I'll invite him. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Please step up to the mic.
Good evening, I'm Roy, volunteer with the Hampshire Community Relations Office. Just a quick thank you to Port Orange Community Council for participating on a national night out the other night. I hope you had fun. And one event coming up, open house on August 31st, from Saturday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And Operations Valley Bureau is offering Community Police Academy starting September 18th. From 6 to 9 p.m. at the Davis Training Center. I have a few flyers over there. The rest of the flyers that I have not sent you, I'll send to the board.
Thank you very much.
Is this in level 1 or is this?
Level 1.
Level 1,
Yes.
Glenn?
Glenn Bailey. So for Valley Alliance Community Councils, I gave Jason the most recent council file list. Jason has a council file list I gave to you.
Yes.
No one was.
But we didn't agendize it.
Well, we just had our meeting Thursday and I just gave it to him on there. Your agenda was already done. But I just wanted to know, we were thinking, even though you didn't have someone in bank, we were thinking of you. Also, we distributed, for our election debriefing session, we distributed the compendium of all the questions in session number 1, and we have a matrix of some of the statistics of the Valley Neighborhood Councils, the number voted for provisional ballots, challenges filed, documentations versus self-affirmation. Just for your reference, I'll give that to you. Also, Congress of Neighborhoods, actually before I leave bank, so in addition to our monthly meetings, we have a couple events each year, or at least one, and so this November we're having our planning forum, and that is something we usually do every 2 years. It's usually a panel and then breakout sessions, all focused on planning and land use issues. Definitely want to have your planning committee chair, and members to attend that. It's usually very topical issues dealing with whatever's going on in the city or other issues that neighborhood councils are dealing with. Then regarding the Congress of Neighborhoods that Jasmine mentioned earlier, I have save the date cards, which I'm going to hand over as soon as I leave the mic. But registration may have opened today. I haven't checked the website yet today. But they were doing the final touches on the workshops. So if you wait too long, the workshop you may be, your first choice might be filled up. So I do recommend that you register promptly. So as soon as as soon as it opens up, there will be an email being sent out, so I do ask that you pay attention to that. It'll be another month until your next meeting, so we definitely want you to.
Thank you.
You're talking about Congress, right?
Congress neighborhood, Saturday, September 28th. You're going to get a save the date postcard in a few seconds.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. Any other public comment? Thank you very much. Item 10, before the break, we're going to open the floor for board member comments and updates, and I'm going to ask for a 2-minute update from each board member. May I start?
David? Sure.
With there, David?
I'm good. We have no comment at this time.
All right.
Wow. Good.
Jason?
Beautification committee did a big tree project, so we just finished that up. We did the last of 3 days of work, so we got all the, not all, but much of the dead trees from the Cessna fire out of Limestone Canyon. We did Wilbur Tampa Park on the hillside when you drive along Tampa. We had our beautification meeting. We were focusing on 3 areas in particular: the Tampa Median project, which I'm going to talk about. There's a couple snags on that one. Art, public art in the community, and the other focus is planting trees. So we're kind of now shifting from addressing the bark beetle issues to try and collaborate and find ways to plant trees. It's obviously been very challenging, the watering the trees, things like that. So
let the community know what the beautification committee has done last year as well as this year. Well, we still have a few more minutes.
So like the trees along Tampa and Rinaldi were infested with bark beetle, and they were all dying rapidly. I mean, first it was like a handful, then it was like 10, then it was like 20. So last year we allocated up to 10,000. We ended up spending about $9,200 to remove the stumps and the trees, and we trimmed dead wood out of all of the ones that we pretty much found. So we pretty much eradicated the bark beetle problem that we're facing here in the North Valley. There are still other neighboring council areas that have some trees that are infested, but that was the first part, and then we're doing this work in the park, which is helping with the fire safety and all that. So that's pretty much what the beautification committee is doing. We have our 3 board members, but we need more stakeholders. We want to hear what kind of beautification projects you guys like to see in the community. We're welcome, everybody.
Right, safety committee. So we continue, the 3 members, David, Gabriel, and myself, to report to LAPD. Well, we didn't forget about you. Okay. So we continue to report to LAPD on issues, which is the main issues to the community, which is the racing, the speeding, and the traffic mitigation. LAPD is working diligently to find solutions, and Devonshire LAPD has been continuing to mitigate the issues. I think the fast reports we've seen, there is a reduction. The complaints are still there, but there is a reduction in these incidents. Valley Disaster Preparedness Fair 2019 is coming up Saturday, October 12, 2019. And I assume the outreach community is working on it. So if they need any help, the 3 of us, will be with you, and we will be those days, of course, in different hours. Our next safety committee meeting is going to be October 22nd, Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019.
What, 22nd?
Yes.
What time?
Typically 6 o'clock, 6:15. So we finalize it depending on the room. And then the last item,
Faculty lounge, yes. Faculty lounge?
Faculty lounge at the PRNC, yes. Over here, the room next door to this.
Oh, okay.
And the last item, there is the RILAN, which is the program that is the Ready Your LA neighborhood. This is part of the citywide emergency operation center, and the committee will make recommendation to the board on how to proceed on this one. At this time, it's training for the city managers, and they will include neighborhood councils. Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
We're doing good.
Nothing? Just a quick comment from me. Last week, obviously, we had the oversight hearing on Aliso Canyon, and I want to thank Lori for trucking with me to Costco to buy all the supplies. And it was a success. People appreciated the refreshments and the cookies that we had in the room, since the 2-hour hearing became a 5.5-hour hearing without a lunch break. So I appreciate everybody who was there, and I hope the stakeholders benefit from the hearing. So we're glad to have brought it to the community. And obviously, had it been for Senator Stern insisting on it being in Port Ranch, I couldn't even convince him to do it at CSUN. He said, no, up here. So we were able to make it work. And again, I want to thank LAUSD for allowing us to do it here. So it was a great success. That's all.
Just want to add to what Hassan was saying. I was at the meeting at the Aliso Canyon hearing, and I thought it was very well presented. A lot of good information, and you should be able to find it. Patty, you were a really great wrap up on that. I did not repost it on our page, but I think if anybody wants to look for it, they can find it. That was a really important meeting for all of us. I think that it seemed like the state senator was on our side and was going to push to have it closed down completely. That was the end result. There were a lot of questions and comments and things made, but that felt like it was a good positive meeting. I think it went well. Right immediately following that meeting was Los Angeles LAPD's National Night Out, and we had a booth there at the park by the Devonshire Division. That was a great event, and a lot of folks there. We ended up taking our leftover cookies, water, and juice to that meeting, so I want to thank Moran for help, and Everlyn, for helping me, and David too, for being there and taking care of, helping me feed the folks that were there. Now, the cookies didn't go as fast as I thought they would, but they went. And that was a long day. So that was, obviously outreach, we have a lot going on. I have a meeting coming up next week. I will post it on our site. I did not have a meeting yet this last month due to all the budget issues we've had. So I will have a meeting next week so that we can get things ordered and things ready for the Valley Preparedness Fair. And then there's Halloween, and then there's other items that we might want to look at. So if you have an interest in coming to my meeting, please double check the Facebook page or our website, Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council website, and I will post the outreach meeting there. Please come and join me. I typically hold them at the Pullers at the Shepherd Church because it's easy to get to. Most people know where it is.
Lori, Sam, and everybody else that helped, thank you so much for the legislative hearing. That was good.
Becky?
Okay, I've been getting a lot of phone calls and comments about mosquitoes in Porter Ranch. And I'm wondering if it would be possible, and I don't know which committee would handle this, to get someone from vector control out here to see what can be done about it, because people can't even go outside.
Which area?
Everywhere. There's 3 types of mosquitoes. One of them came in from bamboo from China, and they're called leg biters. They bite you below the knees, by your ankles, and they don't just bite you once. You should see people are on, I work for a doctor, they're on antibiotics, and having to take prednisone. It's a very serious problem, and I would like to get vector control out to see what they can do about it. Who would be in charge of that? Would that be public safety?
Yeah, I'm assuming public safety.
I can do it, but I don't want to overstep my hands.
If you have a contact or phone number.
Yeah, I can set it up.
Coordinate with us, let me know who would come and make sure you
Well,
tell
I
me.
can do it by myself.
I appreciate that, but just because he's the chair of the committee, just let him know.
Which committee?
Public safety.
Oh, that's a
Public
public
safety? Yeah.
safety issue?
So just that, and then give me a heads up so I can put it on the agenda for a presentation.
Perfect.
Before
Okay,
the meeting.
I'll take care of it.
Sounds great. All right, anything else, Becky? All right. Hassan?
Okay, the Sustainability Committee has been relaunched or reestablished after Suzanne's departure. Glad to report we have 3 members, myself, David, and Miran. We will have our first meeting, official meeting, probably in a couple of weeks, or 3 weeks after the date. We did have some conversation, actually reached out to CSUN, Sustainability Committee or group, We had a meeting with them just yesterday, and they are quite interested to work with us. They offered to give us a complete tour of what they have been doing and some of the projects they're working on. They invited us to a meeting August 26th, 9 a.m. for several hours of discussions, and I think we are planning to go there.
It's in front of the center.
They also offered, we discussed in terms of co-sponsoring certain seminars on sustainability for people to kind of learn more about what sustainability is all about, the kind of projects or things that we can work together, and they are quite open to that, so we may do a joint session of education and sustainability.
Okay.
Aside from that, thank you again for the committee or for the hearing that was arranged for here. I got a lot of good feedback also from several stakeholders, and I think it was a really nice job from Senator.
Thank you. Aaron, can you do it?
I had actually a meeting with the Northwest District Office. I had a meeting with Dr. Margaret Kim, and I also had a meeting with Ms. Kendrick yesterday, and we discussed about the special need program for our schools, and as well a special ed program that we are working to create a platform. We also discussed about a possible event with the special needs network in our district, as well Dr. Scott Shemerson would be present. So that is one way. The second way, we are also going to do an international dance night in our school, in one of our schools. We are working on the details. And then the third, I reach out to respectability in order to find out how we can talk about disability event and workshop here in our area.
Great, thank you.
Reviewing the budget documents, there's a number of great videos that explain the process, and they're very helpful. I'll be working with the budget representatives moving forward. And it might sound out of left field, but to your question, to your comment on mosquitoes, I grew in Maryland. I know of mosquitoes, okay? If you don't like mosquitoes, add a bat house. With bats, you throw in white mosquitoes every night, and it's a great resource to promote.
Me?
Anybody.
Create a bat house?
Yeah, you can buy one, put it on your house.
You can?
You can buy them, sure.
That's a sustainability
It
item.
is.
There you go. There you go.
Bat?
They're dying right now.
Peanut butter salt.
Anything else?
Thank you, David.
Is
the
it possible to ask two questions regarding these updates? Or make a request? I know that's a little out of order, but if I could have a minute of latitude, I'd
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. The mosquito issue is not just here. No. So, I'm, for the first time in 42 years, a victim of these guys. I've been eaten alive. So, my comment to the board is, if you're able to get Vector to come out, which would be great, could you reach out to the other neighboring councils, Chatsworth, Northridge, those who I'm sure are experiencing the same, and maybe they can also publicize that Vector Control is coming, and we can collaborate more, not just as a singular council, but as like the North Valley Alliance, maybe, and just be able to get this resource since they're coming out and get to a much bigger audience. I think that would be a good idea. And then to the Lorax, do you have any idea who trimmed all the trees down Wilbur and on Chatsworth Street? Because there was significant pine tree trimming throughout the north of Devonshire. I was just curious, who's responsible for that?
Bureau Street Lighting, I believe, has, there's a large contract that...
It depends, was it a good job?
It was an excellent job. I thought it was fantastic.
It was fantastic, and that is this amazing gentleman.
Not only do the trees look great, but all the deadwood is gone, and the work that this council did up here on Tampa and on Rinaldi was done in a broader sense. And not only did it make the broader neighborhood beautiful, but it cleared out and hopefully is preventing the bark beetles. Again, not just in the boundaries here at Porter Ranch, but broader. So thank you for whatever you did for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for the latitude.
And we want to keep collaborating with other councils, Chancellor.
I'm sorry, sir. I just want to respond, just say something that might be important about the special needs.
Go ahead.
Talk later. Some of you might not know, but as of a week ago, Los Angeles Unified School District entered an agreement that they're no longer going to be underneath the Shonda Smith consent decree as of December 31st. I'll be talking about something else later, but on a separate thing.
Excuse me, would you step up to the mic so people can hear you?
That's fine. What I need, okay, right now I'm talking about capacity as an attorney. I'm Seymour Amster. I was involved in terminating the Shonda Smith decree, which is happening as of December 31st. That is going to give the power back to the schools to actually do things for special education and take away federal oversight over them. And what we're also doing, I'm going to give my card afterwards, is we're working with city council members to also educate the parents on what that absolutely needs and how they can advocate for their children as well.
Thank you. All right, I think this break is due, but I'm going to ask that we bring it down to 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes so we can catch up on the schedule. So it is now top of the hour. Let's do it. 8:05. We'll start the meeting again. I'd like to get item 11. That is an update on the Aliso Canyon Disaster Community Health Study. That's Mandy Bain. Let me know if that mic works for you. If not, there's this wireless mic. Yeah, you just gotta. Okay, thank you.
Maybe. Okay, good evening, everybody. Here just to provide a brief update on how things are going moving forward with the Aliso Canyon Disaster Health Research Study. We're handing out a little update, and then we should be posting that update on our website as well. I'm not sure if we put our new website on there, but if you go to the old one, it'll link you to the new one. So we're going to have a website that's just for the health study. So as a reminder, DPH received $25 million as part of that larger settlement to administer a health study of the long-term health effects of the Aliso Canyon blowout. So we have DPH administering the study. We have, as stipulated in the settlement, a scientific oversight committee. So that is the committee that has oversight over making the scientific decisions and the direction of the study. We also are forming a community advisory group. That group's role is to advise on feedback and community engagement. It's one of the ways that we will seek community input. And this is the structure that we've determined for the health research study. So, and that structure is based on best practices. There's some details in that handout about each of those items. So in terms of the Scientific Oversight Committee, the agencies have started appointing. I think we have names from almost all of those agencies for who's going to be on the SOC. Anyway, that should be firmed up pretty soon. We are hoping to get the nomination process online, so there will be an open online process where anybody can nominate a scientist or themselves, if they're a scientist, to participate in the Scientific Oversight Committee. That form should be online very soon. We're just kind of going back and forth and finalizing that. The Community Advisory Group. Again, this group's the role, as it states there on your handout, is to provide feedback from the community's perspective and share information with the communities that they represent. So we have gathered members, solicited members through the neighborhood councils, and Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council was asked to send 2 folks to the Community Advisory Group, and then also through an online application process. We had 21 applications through that online process. So initially, we had said that the neighborhood council selected members would then meet and select the remaining members of the community advisory group. We had that preliminary meeting, I think it was July 9th. And it did not go well, to put it mildly. But, you know, it became difficult to move forward, partially because we were trying to do that and we had not really developed all of the documentation about the role and the purpose and the responsibilities of the CAG members. The CAG members that come from the neighborhood councils also didn't have enough information to help with that selection process. So we spent the last 5 weeks kind of figuring out how to move forward after that, because that was 5 weeks ago. So we started by working on all of the documents related to the community advisory group. So we now have nearly finalized things like roles and responsibilities, principles of participation, operational policy, conflict of interest form, those kinds of things. All of the CAG members will receive that. It should be by the middle of next week, but at least 1 week before the first community advisory group meeting. We also developed a different method for selecting members, also a transparent and straightforward method. We picked 12 of the 21 applicants by applying the criteria. You have that criteria on the handout, so basically we divided folks up into stakeholder categories based on what they said in their applications, and then selected up to 2 people from each stakeholder category. We preferenced folks from Porter Ranch, and generally speaking, tried to get a broad representation across the communities. Let's see, we have our first CAG meeting scheduled for August 29th. And I should also say that during this time, we've had a series of calls and emails and communications with those neighborhood council selected CAG members. So we heard their feedback. We've tried to address their feedback as best we can. So the next steps really, we'll start with our CAG meeting on August 29th. The Scientific Oversight Committee nominations and the process for getting the Scientific Oversight Committee together is happening. The research proposals should be, the research proposal solicitation process should begin, hopefully early 2020 is when we would begin that process. So we start actually getting research proposals in that the Scientific Oversight Committee will evaluate and recommend which ones of those to select.
Anything else you want to add?
No, that's the main update. You have some information there.
So we're going to have a lot of discussion on this here, so I'm going to try to manage that time as well. We had a conversation over the phone today, and I've had a conversation with the committee members over the phone today. It seems that we're dancing around the issue. The question of mistrust has to be addressed before this goes anywhere, or it's going to go nowhere meaningful. I would urge the department to take the time to address the issue of trust between community members that are active in this area and the department's plan. Because if the trust cannot be at least given the benefit of the doubt, might as well not do anything. So I urge you not to skirt the issue that is facing this whole study. Find a way to work through it with the group first, to at least establish a minimum criteria for attempting to have a trust, and then build on it. But I would urge you not to ignore it and proceed with the CAG process without addressing that issue.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, I think the good news is that we have very different views of how to accomplish it, but we do share a lot of goals, right? The community wants a high-quality health study that answers the questions about what impacts happened because of that blowout, and they want we all want it to be driven by science, and we all want it to be community focused.
I understand, and unfortunately, it's the tail that's wagging the dog on this issue. It is not about the scientific process that's moved forward, it's about the belief that it is going to be a scientific, the trust that's going to be a solid scientific process. So, again, I don't want anybody to paint it with rosy, picture. It's a problem that needs to be addressed before anything proceeds, and I just don't want to waste too much time on that, but I just want to leave that with you to consider. Jason?
On what Isam is saying, the trust issue, I agree with what he's saying, and if you have suggestions for Mandy, I think that would be helpful. My suggestion, and what I saw at the hearing, there's a lot of, like the questioning from Chrissy Smith to the doctor. Honestly, we have to move forward. And, we have to bury the hatchet on certain, and if we work as individuals in the community and us here on the board, we have to be kind to each other, we have to be respectful to each other, and we can only build moving forward. So that's just my kind of comment, but I think there has to be, it's the elephant in the room, you have to address what was said at those meetings. There were some powerful statements said at those meetings, and I think the community wants to hear answers, but we got to move forward, we got to be nice to each other, we got to work together, but that's just my 2 cents. I mean, we have to build bridges, not tear them down. That's just my...
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, I think that that's something that we're interested in, talking more about, right? And, but if folks are not willing to sort of engage with us in this process, it is difficult to move forward. So, we've had a lot of conversations. We understand, I think, some of the, where those trust issues with some community members come from, and we can deal with those issues, I think. But folks have to be, if you want to be in advising DPH, you have to be willing to go through that process with us.
Any other board comments? Okay, one thing I do want, something jumped at me. This is called a community advisory group, but you've defined the role of it as a communication conduit, not an advisory group. Has something changed in the role that we need to know about?
No, that's always the way we envisioned it. So when we look at all of the words that describe sort of the roles of different types of committees and groups, like oversight or advisory or what some of the other ones might be, that was the one that we selected because it is advising on the community's perspective, it's advising on community engagement. Those are the particular things that it's advising on.
Will it have a role in advising the SOC on anything?
So the primary thing, the first sort of big activity we want the CAG members to do is kind of go through a process of defining what are the main research interests in the community. And that will be compiled and discussed, possibly prioritized and presented to the SOC as what we want to prioritize. We don't want to do science that doesn't answer questions that are relevant to the community.
And I guess I'll leave it this way then, because I understand what you're saying. I would urge you to provide a forum for the CAG to interact with the SOC in its discussions and its advisory, and then let the SOC do its deliberations as it wishes, but provide them a direct opportunity to advise and discuss with the SOC at the beginning of this process.
Yes, yeah, we have that in our drafts of upcoming meetings.
Thank you. All right, anything else from the board? Stakeholders, anything you would like to bring up? Any questions? Comment? Mike?
Did I make a comment as a CAG member?
Step up to the mic, please.
I am the Mike, by the way. Mike Benedetto, Granada Hills South Chamber of Council, CAG member, President of the Chamber of Commerce. Mandy, with all respect, when we had our first meeting with Joe, we were told that we were going to have a lot of supervisory control over the elections of the candidates for the CAG, over picking members of the SOC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And because you were told that Joe possibly misspoken, that none of that was actually going to be true because of certain hostilities. Joe is a member of, what's his actual title? Consultant for public health. And because we were told that, there's been naturally a certain amount of pushback by the CAG in saying, well, because you didn't do what was originally promised, we're upset about it. And I think rightfully so. Then because of that, you said, no, we're just going to have to do it on our own, which caused even more hard feelings. And Jason is right in that we need to work together and work this out. We're also getting a bad rap from Supervisor Barter's office in that it's all our fault. And I would like a complete story told to them. Now, having said that about public health, I have to tell you that I'm personally kind of in the middle of the road on this kind of thing in that you also can't approach public health by saying, hey, we don't trust you, we don't like you, we represent neighborhood councils and we're not going to mess around with this, which I also believe in. I was part of writing the charter and also our mission statement. We all had our input. I believe in that. However, to be totally fair and transparent, it was also voted that we not bring this at this time.
That's the next item on the agenda.
Oh, okay. I just walked in.
I just want to reserve the comment to what she said and what you need from her.
All right. That's what we need is we need to start from the beginning and work this out, amicably.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah, and so we have had, again, a series of, meetings and emails and phone calls and other communications. The process for selecting the other CAG members. Yeah, this is why I don't karaoke. So the process for selecting the other CAG members was changed. That we talked about that, we changed that. We did not change it because you didn't pick the people we wanted or because of whatever. Changed it because that process wasn't working. We weren't able to move forward because you guys brought up that there was not enough information for you to select, right? And also we spent the majority of that, was it 5 hours meeting? Talking about things like what is the role of the CAG and what will the CAG be responsible for doing, etc. So that told us that we needed to fully develop and flush out so we can answer all of those questions for you and find a different way to be transparently selecting the remaining CAG. So that's what we did. So
You took us out of the equation.
for selecting the members of the CAG, but if you want to be a CAG, we have our first meeting coming up and there we go.
How do you select candidates if you can't get their name and background? That's all.
So we gave you the name, we gave you a small description. You're right, if you're looking for what is this person's stance on Aliso Canyon, that wasn't there.
Okay, asked and answered. We're going to move on. Anything else?
Yes. I know we're going to get into charter afterwards, so I'm not going to do that. But let me point out something. And Mandy, I have no hard feelings, but the fact is that those members of the neighborhood councils that came together for the first meeting of the CAG, it was a meeting called by Public Health. We were told what to do, what was going to happen, and we were given a list of names. Excuse me, that's not true. We were given a list of nominees, A, B, C, D, E, F. We were given a few statements that they may have received about them. In one case, one of them had no statements, nothing to go on whatsoever. And so the decision that we made as a group was that we cannot make this decision without knowing something more, without what I would guess any prudent person would say, can I interview them? Can I talk to them? I don't think that's an unreasonable request. We were denied that outright. It took another half an hour just to get the names. They did give up the names, but that is all. So we couldn't move forward. It wasn't a matter of rejecting the process. It was we didn't have the information to do so. And what bothers me more, you all have this from Public Health. And if you go down here and you read, near the bottom it says, after applying the selection criteria, DPH and the neighborhood councils selected 19 community members to serve on the CAG. Gentlemen, ladies, we were not involved. That is not a true statement. We did not have a voice in that. Yet you're told we did. Thank you.
All right.
I have to clarify that. So we can rewrite the sentence, but the neighborhood councils did select 7 people that are on the CAG, and we selected 12. So we can rewrite the sentence. I would just also like to add that it is a normal practice, an accepted practice to de-identify the applicants so that you would reduce bias. So like, oh, I know her, I don't know him, so I'm going to pick her, not him. The point of a community advisory group in this situation is that you have more and more stakeholders represented. So if each of us represents 6 different groups, that's a better CAG because we can reach out to more people. The point is reaching out to more people, not that you know the person.
All right, thank you. Can we move it?
We're going to go to the CAG now. I have a question really quick.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just curious, is there a reason why the council members that were part of the 7 were not part of electing the other 5 that you guys chose?
12.
12. 7, 5, 12.
No, incremental 12.
It's all incremental.
Yeah, the total is 19.
Okay, so is there a reason why they're not part of that? Because look at the numbers. It doesn't make sense.
It was just, again, our goal was
This is our
selecting.
community, so I
Sure.
stand firm on what we want out of it,
Yeah.
not what you guys want out of it.
Well, we do have, I think about 50% of folks are from Porter Ranch that are on the community advisory group. So I think this community is well represented. That was a goal of our selection criteria. So again, the purpose of our process as we initially outlined it was so that we can have a way to be transparent in who we were selecting. So there's lots of ways to be transparent, right? One way we thought would be easy was let's have everybody from the neighborhood councils because that gives us a geographic diversity, and then we'll have them go through this process where they are selecting like, oh, look, that person works at a local school. That can be a good school. Okay, good to have someone from the schools. That's the process that we envisioned. When we spent, I don't even know how much of the first meeting, not even able to get to that conversation because people had questions about, well, what is the CAG? What is our role? What do we get to do? What's going to be expected of us? So that tells you that they didn't have enough information about what they were signing up for. Then we get to the process and they requested to do interviews with folks. So essentially all of that meant let's figure out another way to be transparent because we need to get through this process, right? We need to get started.
Sure.
So instead of trying to go through that process again together, we created the criteria. It's very clear, it's very straightforward, and that's what we did.
It seems, even though wasn't part of it, it just seems that you guys should have put the horse before the carriage and had the definition of what the carriage should have been in the very beginning, because then there would have never been a discussion after this.
Absolutely.
There would be so much turmoil that I feel between the two.
Absolutely. So we were trying to do the two processes at the same time, and that was a huge mistake.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Comments? You can put a timer on this, like,
I'm sorry?
just like make a comment.
I need to move on, Craig. I've asked the question and I need to move on. Let's move on to item 12.
Okay, please
It's-
give
I'm
us
sure it's
ample
short.
time, we'll give us ample time on 12. Thank you,
10
sir.
minutes? That's what I have budgeted? Can we do that?
We'll do our very best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, item 12 is a discussion and possible action to support the charter of the Aliso Canyon Gap Florida Community Advisory Group as presented to us. And the charter and the motion are a part of the agenda packet that everybody has. So if you're wondering what the charter says, it's in the packet that everybody received. So, Miran, I know we had a lot of discussion about this. I have your name on this because I needed to have it to come to the board from somebody, but I'm not attaching this motion to you in any way related to your perspective. You're bringing it to the board because you were asked to bring it to the board for a vote. Okay. So we heard a little bit about this. I'd like to ask who wants to give us a good shot on the charter and what it's all about. Just a second. I'm going to be blunt about this. There are multiple members in the group who are supporters of the charter. I want to make sure that you guys talk to each other. Who's going to talk about it?
Okay.
And I also want to talk.
I understand, it's part of the public comment on it. I'm asking a representative of that charter to speak about it if you'd like, or you would like us to discuss it without any...
No, it needs a proper introduction, of course.
So, is Brian the guy, or do you want to do it? Who wants to do it?
I would like several of us to do that. So let's get started. We got 10 minutes. Let's start with Brian. I'd like Andrew and myself and Jeff to also contribute and present this motion.
We have different.
I understand, I'm just trying to manage the time.
I understand, and I think I can bring it
Two minutes each? Does that work?
Let's try 2 minutes, and I hope that I can do it in that 2 minutes.
All right, thank you.
All right, first of all, the charter that you have in front of you is not a request to support a charter that public health will adopt. It is a recommendation by the core group of the CAG that existed at the moment to use to build a charter, and we're asking them to do that. It has been, at this moment, rejected. We put this together because we saw that there was no support for the transparency and the independence of this CAG. Now, maybe that's because we want independence and transparency, and public health thinks they have it already established. But I don't consider it independent and transparent when you are taking a group, giving them a facilitator, controlling everything that they say, controlling everything that they address, and not allowing them to have their own personal views and ideas presented. That is not independent. And if we're not independent as a group, we cannot support the community. There is no way that any group can support any other community unless they have the independence to communicate and identify the questions, the issues, the problems. And if that isn't true, then I don't think any of us really are going to be on that group. I don't see any logic in that. It's not fair, it's not honest, and it certainly isn't going to produce an issue. You were right. The issue has to be trust. Everybody has to trust each other. And right now, public health doesn't trust us, or there would be no question on this charter.
Because this charter doesn't do anything except give us the right to communicate. That's all. We are not asking for, as was said, that we want to put people on the SOC. We do not. We are not looking to select them. We're not looking to verify it, to qualify it. We're not looking for anything other than communication and the right to have that communication with all levels. I think the steering committee should know us. We should be able to ask questions. They should be able to ask questions. The SOC should be able to do so. We should be able to ask them questions. And when results come out by public health's own literature, we're supposed to evaluate it. How can we evaluate it if we're not independent? If we're just telling everybody what we're being told to say. Okay. So that's the basis of what this charter is about. Right.
Thank you. As you all know, I was unanimously, with one abstention, nominated to be your representative for the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council. And I think you did so because you have some confidence in my ability to grasp situations and understand the issues. But I hope because you believe that I would advocate for the community. That is my driver. And at times, I do get perhaps ill-tempered, because I am passionately trying to protect my community. And no, I apologize to the CAG in our second meeting that I will have a better demeanor. I think that's fair. We do need to be professional. Jason brought up some good points. But let me illustrate to you what I think was rather sugar-coated, to be kind. You were told that this CAG would pick the entire CAG. Because why? Because to build trust, it makes sense that the CAG be community-centric and picked by the people in the community and have people on the CAG that are from the community. We had no objection to having a broad perspective and multiple viewpoints, including some multilingual. That would be a prudent thing to do. But I want to put you guys in exactly the role that we were put in. You have to elect new board members. This happened very recently. Several left because they turned out. You were asked to pick new board members. But you weren't given their names. You were given candidate A, B, C, D. This is exactly what happened to us. And 1 to 7 bullet points on who they are. Would you feel confident picking who would be your board member for a 3-year term without that information? No name. But as a process here, you guys get to talk. That's 2 minutes. Well, I apologize. You guys get to talk and hear from these people about why they're important to be and why they want to be on this committee. We all took this very, very seriously. In the first meeting, we all said, this is far too important of a decision. We need to understand who we're bringing on to service the community. So to say that it became awkward or uncomfortable, I'm sorry, public health, but that was a legitimate process to go through. The charter represents a bridge. It represents a vehicle in which to build the trust. And for those of you that were here on Tuesday, the trust issue is palpable. Thank you, Assam, for bringing it up. It needs to be addressed. And item 4 in the charter, right? A charter is some guardrails. A charter is just a path. Item 4 talks about a vehicle in which public health can reinstill trust in the community by coming and meeting with the community and explain to them that the CAG is made up of people that you know in your communities and were selected by people in your community. That was taken away from you guys. This is no longer your CAG. The majority was chosen by public health. This is not what they promised you. This is not what they asked of us. That is very, very unfortunate. And that is why the charter is in front of you now, rather than waiting, which would be a great idea. We should wait until the entire CAG is together. But it's not your CAG anymore. It's something else. And that's not what you guys signed up for. I urge you to support this.
Thank you. Second. Andrew, you want to?
Board. I'm going to echo a bit. A lot of what was addressed in the previous agenda item, and you hit the nail on the head, and Jason hit the nail on the head about rebuilding. That was exactly the tenet. It was straight away addressing the elephant in the room and saying, we are all here, even though there were players in the room, myself, Craig, and others, who have a long history of public health, defending this community, saying, look, we're here. We signed up because we are trying to move forward together, because this is that important of an endeavor. But in order to rebuild, we have to acknowledge, we have to get the laundry out, and we have to deal with it so that we can move forward constructively to provide a health study really kind of outlined, again, as Craig said, kind of with the guardrails of the charter/mission statement. That if you put this in front of 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 community members, they're going to support this. Why? Because this ensures that the community gets what it desperately needs. The moving of the goalpost of the selection of the CAG may seem arbitrary, may seem petty, but I will share this one point with you. Actually, 2 points. One of the members selected shared nothing more than being a Porter Ranch resident. That was enough. You sure wouldn't pick a board member like that. The other is, and we just discovered this today, that one of the members selected, whom I will share that the NC selected core group had indicated there was concern about, we just discovered works for an organization who received money from the gas company. That is exactly the protection that this group is trying to put into place so that every community, every NC that's participated, and every member of this valley has been affected by this disaster, and who we are going to ask to participate in this study, can be sure that they are truly getting an independent, science-based study free of all political agendas.
Thank you. Mike? Just say, Mike has raised his hand, let him speak, and then you can speak, sir.
He's already spoken.
Not on this item.
It's okay if he goes.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Mike. Okay.
I'm asking Mike to step up to the mic.
Sorry, I'm fine. Just want to reiterate everything my colleague said. I agree with them completely. I don't think the public health realized that we were going to, who they were dealing with to some extent, in that we are newer council people, and we owe a greater allegiance to our stakeholders. And we need to work with them with accountability and transparency. However, on the other hand, I'm also like an umpire, and I call them as I see them. I feel that this motion, honestly, is premature until we get the entire CAG together to vote on the charter and the mission statement. We had taken a vote as to whether we bring this to neighboring councils at this point. The majority of us voted against that, and I think this should possibly be tabled until that time. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jeff Hammond. I'm president of the Chatsworth Neighborhood Council. It's a pleasure to be in front of you. Thank you for letting me have a few moments to speak to this. The charter that we're asking for you to consider and vote on tonight does 3 things. 3 different pillars exist. It's community-centric CAG. This doesn't go through, you no longer have a community-centric CAG. Transparency at all levels. The charter supports transparency at all levels. This needs to be a science-based CAG as the 3rd pillar. This charter helps establish that by defining the role of the CAG and the level of participation that we have. If not voted on tonight, you've lost your chance to have an impact 100%, and the Department of Public Health has squashed your voice.
Thank you.
Hey, something, may I clarify something, correct something that's been said?
Please.
Okay. This CAG, per the Public Health Department, is a CAG of 7 members. 7, not 8. It was us, the members of the CAG, that voted in the 8th person. But per Public Health, this CAG is 7 members. 4 members agreed to present this to NCs. It has been presented to Granada Hills North. It has been approved by Granada Hills North. I can tell you that from my perspective, I saw public health as a problem. A problem because for 20 years, Granada Hills North has been trying to get public health to address the health concerns of the landfill. And they have rejected it at every moment. They have never done anything about it. And only because LAUSD started calling for it was there any attempt to get involved in any way. And it still to today has not happened. So we have a healthy concern for what's happening. And all we're looking for is support to give them ideas to choose from. That's all.
All right, thank you. Just a minute. I need to, you've made the case for it. I need the board to discuss it and decide if it wants to take action. If a motion comes to the floor, I'll open it for public comment on that motion, and then we'll have a vote. So just.
I am a member of CAG, so I'm pretty much.
But I mean, we got a lot. We got to move. So, for the purpose of discussion, it's not a motion yet. For the purpose of discussion, board members, anybody wants to say something? Anybody wants to say something about it?
I have a question. If we table this for now, what is the harm now? Like, I think what Mike was trying to
Because
say.
they're going to assemble the CAG on the 29th, and you don't meet till next month.
29th of August.
But that's not a harm.
Yes, that is a harm, because by then it'll be completely diluted.
Okay, please, John, please. If you ask the question, the answer perspective, let's move on to next. Anybody else?
So, you know, I'm sitting here listening to both sides, and I'm a person, I'm not comfortable with it. I'd really like to see the other members of CAG being formed. I would hope that, that the department really works with CAG and lets them choose members of our community that belong on this committee. Not who you guys want, but who will do right by the community. You hear me, Mandy? It's important because this is something that we live in. You don't live in our community. Your family members weren't sick. Most of the people that come out here weren't sick. But we were for many, many months. And it's important that we put together a good group of people to support us. And I hear what you're saying, but personally, I'm not comfortable in making a decision to support this at this time. I want to see the rest of the CAG being formed. And I really want to see you guys work together. I want to see if you can work together. And if not, there's going to be a huge problem.
All right. Can I make a comment?
Yeah, one simple question.
Go ahead.
How many CAG members we have?
They were saying.
No, I mean.
Right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of them are here. All the NC selected ones are here.
Actually, well,
I'm sorry.
hold on.
I apologize. Correct me. Who's not here?
Mike is an alternate.
Mike
For
Malcolm.
Department of Health.
Who's the 7th? Who's not here?
Mike Kaiser's not.
Mike
Kaiser.
thank you.
So that's one more. Okay.
Can we hear from Moran?
Sorry,
Because
there's one more
we
person
elected
who's
him.
not here, just to be accurate.
Of the 7, so we're clear, of the 7, 5 are here.
Yes.
Got it.
Mark Morris and Mike Kaiser are not here.
Got it. Okay.
However, as an alternate, when Mark's not around, I sub for him.
I understand. Okay.
Thank you.
Majority.
I've asked the board for comments. Let's just go through the comments. I'd like to make a comment if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
And I've had discussions about this today with some members of the CAG. I think at its core, this charter is very problematic. I think it's a non-starter for a relationship to have this kind of a mandate coming into this. And I would urge the CAG not to slam the door and say, our way or the highway, because you're also complaining about the Department of Health saying, our way or the highway. So we have a charter here, you know, you soft presented it as a suggestion or a way to have more certainty, but it flat out says we pick the majority of people who will serve on the scientific advisory on the SOC. The CAG will provide a list that would be the majority of the SOC. You can't run a health study by having a gun at the health department's head. So I find this problematic, and I would advise the CAG to recognize that its job is not easy. God knows I didn't take it for a good reason either. It's not an easy job, but you got to be able to find a way to work with Department of Public Health. It is not our job to tell Department of Public, we don't have that authority to tell Department of Public Health what to do, what not to do. It is in our authority to file an objection about certain procedures that are being implemented. So if I were listening to all this and thinking, what impact can I make? I would love for us to put a letter to the health department saying that you have changed the process that you have promised the community because you hit a snag with the members of the CAG. We ask you to take the time and work through that snag and not change that process. We can advocate, we can ask, but to say that we're saying we think the CAG needs to take over this process, which in my mind, this is what I read in this charter, and I find it troubling in that sense. So from my perspective, I would not support this charter.
May I correct something that you're saying?
Well, you can't correct my opinion.
I can't correct your opinion, but I can correct the interpretation of what you're saying. You are not reading it the way it's intended to be read and what it says.
Maybe then it is not written right because that's how I understood it.
But if I tell you what it says, what we are saying there, will you at least consider it? What we have done there is we have said that the CAG should consist, that the SOC should consist of at least 8 members that are scientific in nature and independent. That's all we've said. We have not said anywhere in there that we want to pick them. The public health has said...
Let me read it for you. It says, the SOC structure must be designed to eliminate any impression of political agenda by having 8 reasonably qualified, independent, science-based members selected by the CAG/community, in addition to the 7 appointed by the state, county, and city. Also, the community-endorsed SOC members will have majority voting rights regardless of the actual SOC membership. Now, I can't read it in any other way, Brian.
If those are the exact words, I stand corrected and I apologize. That is not what was intended. I will tell you what is intended, and we would correct that in a heartbeat. We never intended to select any member of the SOC.
But you understand what's been put in front of us is about the selection.
I do understand that, and you have every right to act on that or ask us to change it, however you want to go forward. I'm not directing. I'm just saying that that is not our intention. Our intention was never to select, only to give ideas, maybe nominate, but our requirement was to have 8 independent individuals, or have the majority of the SOC independent from the agencies themselves. And that's for political reasons.
And along those lines, I personally feel that if we send a letter asking the health department to allow the CAG to propose members for a SOC based on qualifications, those who are not employed by government agency because of lack of trust. That's a reasonable way to go, and that's something we can ask every neighborhood council to advocate for that kind of position. It is the blunt language in this charter that give me pause.
Not arguing that at all.
Thank you.
So if we made an addendum, we made a change, would you be more supportive? Well, you know, along the lines of what you just described, rather than selected by it could be something like, we'll give you 10 names, you pick 8. It could be something like that. But we're not getting that sort of dialogue. And that's all we're asking for. We want to protect the community.
We can change that. Just say.
We can change that.
Mayor, you want to say something?
You know, Sam, under every public health, there is a protocol. We are not yet established as a full body. We are still incomplete. I understand the concern of the charter. It needs to change the language. I didn't understand all of it. It's very it's problematic. We need to find, I agree with every great more member, to find the language and the tune to work with the public health. That's number one. We need to be considerate to each other. As Jason said, we need to respect each other.
No problem.
You had no idea how many phone calls I received outside of this. It was very common. At 7 o'clock, I would receive a phone call. I said, hey, what's going on with the gay community? I said, who are you? At 7 o'clock, I would wake up. I was very much bothered by this.
So,
you know, this is it. The addendum on the language could be, but I agree with Sam moving forward and sending a letter to the public health in order to find a better protocol and better practices. We need to work together. If we are having irrational behavior, we are going to lose this health study. I'm telling you from my previous experience. I worked with a
Who's being irrational, just so we're clear? Who's being irrational?
In general, I don't want to name. I respect all of you. I want to work and I'm supporting, but we need to respect each other. Easy language. Sometimes I don't understand what it says.
You know, Yaron, if you ever didn't understand this, I wish you would have asked us.
Of course.
Because for the record, this was unanimously voted on and agreed upon, this charter. There was 8 of us in the room, it went down 8-0, we have notes. So if you didn't understand it then, I wish you would have spoken up.
Of course, and as I say, we need to talk more easily. I want this community advisory to be established, formed, and work together. I care about our community. I care about the outreach.
So let me ask you, so you're saying 8 approved the language as stated in here?
All 8. Yes.
As stated in here?
Yes, all 8 approved. And then it was sent to public health. The next day, they said thank you and some other things. And then 2 days later, after this went out, I was contacted by a new CAG person that public health told them they were on the CAG.
Okay.
That's how we found out that they expanded the
I'm
CAG.
sorry, can you make it quick?
I will. And here's the crux of the argument. I just want to go on record for saying that I too voted for this charter, okay? What I was saying was that we voted also that it shouldn't be presented at this time, okay? And if you notice by their own terminology, all 8, because they're the ones who voted me into the CAG.
That's right.
Okay? And now they want to, like, if I don't agree with them, we go back to 7.
Okay.
I don't like that.
I'm okay. Patty, you want to say something?
Mandy threw you out.
I just want to point out that I was called, I had put in my application because a lot of people were saying, hey, you got to do this, you know all about Aliso, everyone knows you, for better or for worse. And so I was expecting, to get either yay or nay from these community members who know me most of the time. A few of them didn't. But all of a sudden I got a phone call from public health saying, oh, we need more information from you because we want to be transparent. I said, well, aren't you going to be, why are you calling me when it's going to be the neighborhood council people who are going to be selecting us? And, oh, transparency. I thought, well, that's kind of the opposite of transparency because they know me. Public health doesn't know me. You know me, most of you know me pretty well, know the work that I've done for, again, better or worse, to combat the RISO and to find out about health motives and fight for this community. And for them to be saying, oh, A or B or C without telling people, I don't think that's transparent. And now we have people, why aren't they bringing us together for, maybe a little dinner and drinks outside of the CAG, have us sit down, we can talk without public health, come up with a charter or take this charter better and revise it, put in our concerns, all of us, all the people who got selected, and make this a thing that can work for the communities that are involved. And yet I've been told we don't even have contact information.
Thank you, Pat. Okay. I know everybody's looking at me about the time, and I understand who's in the room. I'm trying to manage. I get the highest blood pressure as the time goes on, so trust me. All right, I need to ask a question. Do we want to have a motion on this or not have a motion? Is there a readiness to vote on a motion here?
That's right. Or you want to ask how many people might be in motion? How many people will be how many people might be in favor?
No. I'm asking if there's a readiness to vote, if there is a unanimous, non-readiness to vote, we don't have a motion. If there is one readiness to vote, that person may make a motion, and then if there is a second, it'll be voted on. If there's not a second, it'll die, and that's it. So, is there anybody has a readiness to vote?
Excuse me, point of order. Sorry to turn all the heads. Does the board have the option of going on a third option? And if the board does not make a motion to support the charter as is, a motion of some other language could be, you could basically amend and say the board does not support public health choosing the members, or the board urges that the original, as presented to us, plan of the CAG, the 7 CAG picking the others.
Okay.
Do you have that latitude?
Yes, we do have that latitude.
So I will
the
throw that
question
out there.
is there any readiness to vote on a motion related to the item in front of us? Anybody?
I think so. With the amendments that were discussed, we can make a motion.
Okay, so you're ready to make a motion?
I can make a motion.
Make a motion, please.
The changes were, let's see.
You're going to make a motion to change it on the language in this?
On the language, correct.
This is not our item. This is not our motion.
Okay.
We are receiving a document to vote on yes or no. We can amend our motion on what we vote on, but we're not going to amend the charter because that is their charter, not ours. If they want to amend the charter, they can, unfortunately, they have to come back to the meeting. But if you want to have a motion to address the alternative approach, anybody who wants to do it, go ahead.
Are you willing to amend the motion for next meeting, or would that be too late?
The question here is, do you want to repeat the suggestion?
The core issue is that the CAG, what was presented to this board and how the broader CAG was going to be formed is not what's happening is not what was represented to you. So if the language of the charter is not sufficient for your support today, my suggestion was to make a motion with language specific to the formation of the broader CAG. That this board, not to put language in your mouth, does not support public health unilaterally choosing the additional members. That this board wishes that the original plan is adhered to, where the 7 neighborhood council members pick the remaining members.
which is as presented to the board.
I think the option of the letter you mentioned is better. They need to get all together and agree to work together as a team. The letter approach.
Yeah, of course. Brian, I gotta finish this process. please.
I understand.
So I gotta finish it. Go ahead.
Sitting here listening to really everyone on both sides, there is definitely, going back to the discussion came up at the beginning, there is high level of distrust between the community, CAG, and the Department of Public Health due to various reasons, especially on the part of the Department of Public Health for some of the work they have done before to gain the mistrust of the community, as well as some of the language changes and so forth. What we see here is a reaction of what you guys have done, Doctor, and unfortunately this is going to continue. We are not going to sit here tonight, change any of the language and bring that to a compromise. It's not going to happen. That August 29th meeting, I suggest you postpone it. I don't think that meeting should take place. I don't think any more members should be selected. Please allow us to send a letter to your department with full support of the board to say what does our community really wants and demands. If the public health decides to proceed in some other ways, I promise you, the board will take a very strong stand and the entire community will support.
Hassan, I want to move away from the discussion to decision on the motion. I respect what you're saying, and I agree with you. I'd like to do a letter. The challenge that I have is I don't have a letter for you to vote on.
Right.
So anything that we write to submit has to be voted on and approved. So unless we're going to force a special meeting to vote on that letter, it's going to be in September. So either way, the question here now is, for today, are we voting on something today? So,
With the option of an amendment.
May I ask a question?
yes.
If you, because if you don't vote in favor of the letter, does that mean that the health department continues to just have their meeting on the 29th and then that delays them being able to?
I appreciate that, ma'am. The problem is, they don't report to us. We have no say on what they do. We can make recommendations, but
Whatever recommendations you do on them, I think also, because I'm sitting here and I'm not trusting anybody who has to make corrections after what they've presented, and both parties are asking to make corrections.
and so we can't do that.
So as a board that I'm wanting to trust, you have to, I tell you, that you need to make it obvious that you're not in support of either party at this point. Because, wow, I've never seen people delivering documents, asking for your support, and then saying, oh, I can change that language. No. You can't support something and allow them to have a meeting and let them have a meeting without letting them know that you're not supporting either.
You gotta wait, please. We don't have a motion on the floor. I'm not having any more public discussion on it. Do we have a motion, yes or no?
For discussion?
All right, we don't have a motion on the floor. I'm gonna move on to the next item. But I'm gonna interrupt here, and Mr. Saunders, I would love to say, please come up and speak and introduce yourself. This has been a tough meeting, but we'd love to at least hear a hello from you. So would you please step up to the mic?
Okay, I was just going to be a fly on the wall.
I know you cannot be a fly on the wall in this room. Please come up.
All right. Hi, folks. Good evening. Forgive my casual wear. I'm the principal at the school.
Take the mic, please.
Hi, folks. You guys are doing great.
Yeah.
You want to take the mic?
Okay.
I don't know. Practice for Friday.
Just speech prepared.
There you go, practice.
I'm just saying hi. I love it. I'm really grateful to be in this community. I'm the new principal at Porter Ranch Community School. Good to see you folks. It's okay. You guys are getting things done. I know it's good to see that people care about what's going on out there.
Hey, guys. Guys.
But I apologize first because I was hoping to be here at the beginning.
That's all right.
And then we had a big meet and greet with the staff. So I plan on being at the next one too.
That'd be great. Mr. Schmelson was here. He was looking forward to meeting you.
Yes, he was waiting for you.
He's looking for you. We don't mean to make you feel bad, but we told him he'll be back hopefully at the next meeting.
Yes, thank you.
You're working very hard. Thank you. It's great to be part of this community.
Okay.
You're great. Thank you.
And Mr. Saunders, we're going to need you to play defense for us with your staff because we're supposed to be out and we're still in our agenda. So
can we buy a little time?
Buy us some time with your custodian.
What was the extent?
He's expecting 9:35.
Yeah, and we'll run out of here before 10.
Will you give it to us?
Okay.
Yeah, ask him first.
He can't come and eat.
Yes.
He can't come and eat while he's waiting.
All right.
Lisa, can we do quickly? Can we do
Consent calendar.
the part after the consent?
Yes. Jason. Oh, after. All right.
We'll be quick about it.
Still 10.
No.
We'll be kicked out.
I'm going to try to get us out by 9:30. Okay? Just bear with me. All right.
Consent calendar.
Gentleman's waiting in the back there. I can't do that to him. I apologize.
Which one?
Anybody from the North Street Beautification Committee here?
Nope, move on.
No. I'm going to ask for item 14. Sir, would you please step up quickly and...
You're on.
Yeah.
Come and get him?
No.
All right.
It's his choice.
It's his choice. Yeah, I'll close it. Okay.
Good evening, my name is Seymour Amster. I'm a Parents, Educators, Teachers, and Students in Action, known as the acronym of PASA. So I think you're familiar with Teen Court, but you can ask me questions. The more important thing is this, or not the more important thing. We are now receiving direct referrals from the Los Angeles Police Department Juvenile Arrest Diversion Program. So a minor commits a nonviolent crime in this area. Instead of being arrested, LAPD refers them to us. We sign them up for the Teen Court program. I'm going to jump over talking about the Teen Court itself and talk about what we do with the youth in your community that is referred to us. So after we get them to agree, we give them an assessment. I should mention one thing. Supervisor Barger's office said tonight there was 142 agencies approved for mental health. We were one of them. We are very much involved in mental health and mental health for the individuals being referred to us. So once we have a minor signed up, we do a complete assessment of them to determine what is the cause of the behavioral issue. Once we get the diversionary conditions in place, we then, there's counseling attached. We also have a mentoring group that is also like a counseling where we use individuals who have been through the Teen Court program, college students who have been through it, social worker intern. We kind of create a group where it's a safe place for the minor to complain about what's going on with their life and then give them the tools how to cope.
Okay, I gotta ask you a question.
No, go ahead, I prefer that.
Do you have the statistics on our neighborhood council?
Yes, so the past year, we had 12 referred minors from your area, about $500 a piece.
Out of how many?
149 in this San Fernando.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other
I
questions?
prefer more questions instead of talking.
Yes, and I need to have that. Any questions? Now, what is our budget for MPG this year?
The $2,500.
And I have one question for him.
Yes.
You were approved by Catherine Barger's office, correct?
All the board of supervisors.
Okay. So my question is, how much money did you receive?
Nothing yet, so we get a
And how
match.
much can you?
We can get, hopefully, we could get $1 million. If we do, we ain't coming back.
That's all I needed to think.
Has any other council given anything so far?
Not so far for this fiscal year. We coming into you last fiscal year, but you gave us to us before.
How did you arrive at the amount of 5,000?
$500 per diverted youth. Also, if we do not utilize the full amount, then that allows us to do student workshops into your areas. We're looking to, we got many workshops, but the one that we have to hit hard on is vaping. Vaping's out of control. Cannabis is out of control.
Okay, the challenge for us is we don't have the budget of this magnitude in this year's MPGs based on the community's input that we received in our survey. So,
We say yes, no, come back, whatever.
anybody wants to,
How much can we?
the 2,500, that is the budget, is that what's left over in the budget, or is that how much
Okay,
total
so
for the year?
I didn't do the financial report yet, right? But I handed everybody this sheet, so if you look right here on the bottom, this is our budget allocation. We did 2,500 for NPGs, we did 9,000 for community improvement projects, and then general operations are 30,500, so a lot of that is outreach.
Out of 2,500 MPGs, have we been asked and committed any?
No, this is a
Okay.
new fiscal year, so we haven't done anything.
Okay.
Can we, I don't know,
Let me ask you a question. Would $500 be insulting?
Nothing's insulting, okay? What I was,
the problem is 1,000 is half of our budget.
Yeah, 40% of our.
so that you're gonna.
That means all the children, that means children that are doing, educational things, there won't be any money for
No,
them.
no, you're a government agency. You were asking a question.
I understand. That's why I asked you a question.
You just told the board that you can
Exactly.
you might be having $1 million coming your
If
way.
I do, that's great, I'm not coming
We're
back.
gonna be coming to you for a bar.
All right,
I'll make
I'd
a
like to-
comment if that helps.
What?
I'll make a comment if that helps.
Go ahead.
I think we should be looking at what we kind of did in the past, but I think what we're doing to help the schools now is a lot of events, so what we've been doing. So some of like the school stuff that we did will come out of general and operational, like the teachers appreciation, things like that. Whereas before, we gave money to robotics through an MPG, but they may still need support, they may come back, but I think we should think about what we've been doing in the past and kind of see if this fits in with what we'd like to do in the future, I guess.
So you support, you're working with LAPD on this, and the CD12, the Council District 12, donates a lot of money. A lot of money going towards it. Have you reached out to the council district?
Yeah, I did.
And what did they say?
No. I'm not done reaching out to them. And then it was a former council member, and he got a lot of money into the pals, okay? And yes, we're gonna come back to it. We made the requests, and then we have to do the follow-up requests, and to be honest with you, sometimes my concentration is more on the services than to just keep asking the money, and then I write the check out of my own pocketbook because I gotta move forward. I just gotta be quite honest with you. I mean, yeah, there's gonna probably come a time where I don't have to come back to you, but whatever you can do, I'm gonna be appreciative. I mean,
I would like to put a motion to approve $500 in the MPG fund for the organization.
I'll second it.
Board comment, public comment. Call the vote.
All right, Randy, absent. Hassan?
Yes.
David Bayless?
No.
Jason?
No.
Miran? Absent. Becky? Absent. David Lasher?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Assad?
Yes.
Gabriel? Yes. Isam?
Yes.
And motion passes.
It has someone? All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next item is item 13, and there's no one from the North Shore Beautification Foundation here. They're also asking for $5,000. I would like to suggest that we table this motion without objection.
Yep.
Without objection? All right. Moving on to item 15, the consent calendar. I would like to get a motion to approve the June 2019 MER, the July 2019 MER, and the board member reimbursement to me for the expenses of the legislative hearing, mainly because it turns out Costco does not take MasterCard.
Is that a motion or?
So I need a motion to approve the consent calendar. But before that, I'm sorry, anybody wants to remove an item off the consent calendar? None heard? I have a motion to approve the consent
I'll
calendar.
second it.
I have a second.
Motion
Motion from David Lasher. I know, I'm sorry.
You got it?
We're bombarding you with unbelievable stuff.
David Lasher made the motion.
I'll reconfirm everything, whatever.
Gabriel. Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah, we have video.
Dave seconded, and call the vote.
All right, Brandy's absent, Hassan?
Yes.
David Valen?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Miran is absent. Becky, absent. David Lasher?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Assad?
Yes.
Gabriel, yes. Hassan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'd like to make a suggestion,
Yes.
and I apologize for having you been put in this situation. If you'd like to call it tonight, and we can help supplement the agenda, the minutes later on in the process, if the board would not object.
And there's the video.
Please, we're not asking you to go watch the video later. We're saying we will take on the effort of helping supplement the minutes for the rest of the meeting.
Our meetings are very
I
long.
understand what you're going through, so please feel free to call it a night, and we thank you for being here. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have the emails to send whatever you have?
It's behind the card. It's behind the card I gave you.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have internet.
All right.
Send it to you, yeah. Okay.
Thank you, and I apologize for having you in this position.
Financial report, really?
Item 16, financial report.
Okay, so it's pretty straightforward, not really anything to report. We did get the rollover, I emailed that to everybody, it was like 29. Basically, that 45,000, that's what we're working with, so we have all our money, well, actually, no, I'm sorry, the 38,976.68 is what we have available, and so that's where we're at with the budget, is right there, everything's on the sheet, so there's nothing complicated.
Any question on the financial report?
No fiscal year, so we're off and running.
All right.
And we have, our money is
17. Hassan.
Yes, that's the motion to authorize Jason to file the community impact statement in support of Country Fire 190836, which is basically supporting installation of hydration system in small businesses and with some recommendation throughout the community.
So the sustainability committee is strongly supporting
Committee has
this.
supported
Okay.
this, discussed it and supported.
All right, and the CIS letter is in the motion.
I'll second it.
All right, did you make the motion?
Thank you.
You made a motion,
You made
you
the
want a
motion.
second?
Second.
Public comment? No. Board comment? No. Call the vote?
Brandy, absent. Hassan?
Yes.
David Valen?
Yes.
Jason?
yes.
Miran, absent. Becky's absent. David Lasher?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Assad?
Yes.
Gabriel, yes. Hassan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 18.
There, let's see, okay.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
Let me ask you a
you want
question.
to
Do you want to do it now, or?
I can do it just really quick update. I'll just do real quick update.
What I'm asking is, you'd be making an update to the board. Do you want to wait to put it on the early part of next meeting so there's people in the room? Or you want to do it now, it's your call.
I'd like to just say a couple sentences and then, but also put it on the meeting next, meeting. Just basically, the issue right now is that they're asking us to pay for the water meter. They want a new water meter on that median. So that costs $10,000. We asked Bureau of Street Services to pay for it. They said no. So that's the holdup on the project now. And so now we're kind of shifting the focus on art. But yeah, I would like to have it on the agenda for the next meeting, but I wanted everybody to know
All
that.
right, item 22. If you don't mind, I've been asked to move the meeting, swap it with item 19, and I would like to do that without objection.
Without objection.
Item 22. David.
I'm gonna go ahead, just run with it. 'cause
Well,
you-
you read the motion.
All right, fine. 22, the motion is, discuss some possible action to authorize the Port Ranch Neighborhood Council Land Use Committee Chair and/or Co-Chair to send a letter to Recs and Parks Commission on file CIS, and file a CIS to recommend the renaming of the pavilion at the new 50-acre park, Sesavanga Pavilion. The Sesavanga are the local Indians that occupied this land prior to any of the developments going on up here.
I have a quick question.
And then, can I just give a little, because last time we talked about this, so I did do some research. I did reach out to Chatsworth Historical Society, and I've been forwarding you guys the emails on the presentation.
Exactly, and I read that last one, so
Yeah.
it was, a report from that, I don't think it was.
That was the other thing that I found. There was from a Santa Barbara Historical
It
report
looked
for
like
this
to
one.
me, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like to me the map when we went out to Topanga. It didn't cover.
Are you talking about this map here?
Yeah, it didn't really cover this particular neighborhood.
This is like an ancient map. This is like a map. This is not like your normal map. This is like a map that was drawn from a long time ago. But if I could just read, so I've worked with I've been working with Ray Vincent at the Chatsworth Historical Society. They did the trail, you know, that connects on the lower portion. And he emailed me back. And he said basically there are 3 tribes in the area. So the Santa Susana, the ones that are in the Simi Hills here were the Chumash tribe. That was their sacred site. And this talks about that. And he said that the Tatavian were the northern tribe, the northern tribe. And certainly there's overlap between, you know, they hunt and, you know, gather in the same areas. I'll read you what he emailed him. I invited him to the meeting. He said, thanks for the invite to your meeting, but unfortunately will not be able to attend. I did find the motion posted online and support both aspects of naming Porter Ranch Community Park and Sesavanga Pavilion. Make sure that you plant lots of sycamores around the pavilion. They'll provide excellent shade and are quick growing trees and will establish the place of the sycamore woods. It will no doubt be a beautiful spot. So I guess apparently historically this is Sycamore Woods. So that's the information. I didn't get anything back for the UCLA Friends of Archaeology.
The paper that you sent us, I did a search on Sesavanga and not a single place did that word exist in that paper. I didn't read the paper, I did a search for that name. So I'm trying to
Which
understand-
paper are you referring to?
You sent us a paper that was published?
Right, from without, that paper was referring to the different tribes.
Right, and so I looked for the word Sesavanga.
Sesavanga came from the letter that was from the Indians. That was the request.
Well, I appreciate that. We're being asked to memorialize that word, that name, and so I assumed it would be mentioned in that paper, and there was nothing in it. So I don't know where that name comes from.
Well, in the letter.
Plus, before we name and all that, I think that committee or something, they should be active within our PRNC. You know, just to come
To
and
raise
raise
that
their name and go, they should come and do your cleanup. They should come on in our community safety. They should do some
They've
outreach.
submitted
They
to
should
Rex and
attend.
Park as well.
No, forget rec and parks. They need to be active within our
If we are
PRNC.
to push for that name, he's saying,
Yeah,
what are they doing with us?
Yeah,
What have they done for
And
us?
by the way, I understand that that naming has already gone through. You're asking for a change in the name.
Yeah, so Englander Pavilion was named back in like 2018 with a letter from the developer and, you know, no outreach to the community.
All I'm saying is the commissioners have already voted on naming it Englander Pavilion.
Yes. and
They
then-
certainly cannot tell us go away, but all I'm saying is you're
It's a rename.
asking for a renaming, not for a naming, because that it's already been done.
Correct. It was the process that they named it didn't fit the guidelines.
I appreciate that, but that's not what you're asking in this letter.
No,
You're asking for a
the
naming of the
ask,
Sesavanga Pavilion.
so the ask,
You're not asking them to withdraw that name and initiate a public process for the naming of the pavilion. That is a very
That
different
could be an
ask.
option.
That's a different ask.
That could be a different ask.
Wasn't there two different tribes claiming the property? Why would
Which
you-
tribes?
There was, if I remember correctly, did another tribe come and say?
It was the Chumash that said they thought that it was, that they were occupying that area, but they really were more west. But like Jason said, most likely due to hunting or survival, they overlap one
So
way.
You
what
essentially
do you
had
wanna do?
three tribes. It's like a
9:32,
triangle.
what do you want to do?
Well, I think would be, I think we do need to have a discussion about how to name the pavilion, and we were left out of the conversation, frankly, and people are upset about that.
So may I suggest we table and come back with a different
Well, we
letter?
need to have outreach, and I'm not on the outreach committee, we need to have Rex and Parks come, we need to ask Rex and Parks to hold public,
I appreciate that. We're trying to decide what we're going to do on this right now.
well, we either move forward on this, or we look to do a discussion and an outreach with Rex and Parks on the
Right
pavilion.
now, we have a discussion and a possible action. I need to understand, are we asking for an action or not? We need to move on.
You should table it to.
You tell me what you want.
Give
I'd like to
yourself
hear
some
from
time. Give yourself some time to really.
We had a discussion. Anybody else want to have a discussion on it?
Working on
I'm
this.
sorry, just a second. Anybody else want to have a discussion on it?
I'd like to hear some
Do you have something to say?
Outreach, if we are going to be part of it, let's have more information. It would be more practical to even, this is a very important motion we are talking about. Also, we need everyone who has been in this motion at least to come and to have a presentation and outreach so we can take care of that.
Okay, so
Any
that
other
being said, what I would like to do is to have a discussion, well, I'd like to have, I would like to have,
Jason.
wait, can I think for a
We have a
second?
motion.
I need to think about what I'm gonna say, if you could just be patient for a second, I'm about to say it before you cut me off. What we need to do is to, let me think for a second. What, the letter should go to Rex and Park saying that we would like to reconsider the naming of the pavilion. I'd like to take that first step. That's the step, okay? We don't have to decide on the name, we're gonna do the outreach, but I would like to move forward with the letter to Rex and Parks requesting a renaming and public hearing, public process. That's the motion, that's what I would like to see. I
Are
don't
you
want-
making a motion right now?
Yes, that's the
Please
motion.
make a motion.
Make a motion.
So,
Letter to Rex and
are you gonna
Parks.
write it down?
Go ahead.
I have to write it down and make the motion. Hold on. Okay. You gonna write it down for me?
Go ahead.
Okay. You wanna make the motion? You make the motion.
All right.
And I'll write it down.
The letter will be, the motion will be, it's a letter to Rex and Park that we would like to have a discussion in the renaming of the pavilion, and we'd like to have more outreach and input as to the consideration of the naming of it. What do you?
Renaming of the pavilion. Okay, so I said, motion to send a letter to Rex and Parks requesting a discussion on renaming of the pavilion at the new 50-acre park.
Question on clarification, are you proposing to bring that letter to the board for approval, vote, or are you asking to prepare it and send it without the board approval of the letter?
Bring it to the board. Yeah.
We'll bring it back to the board at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I have a second? All right, any further public comment? Glenn?
Just when the motion was first stated, it said to ask for reconsideration by Recreation and Parks, and when you read it back, I didn't hear that part, and it sounded,
Yeah.
if that's what you intended.
Okay, so let me read it again. Let's see, letter to Rex and Parks requesting,
Reconsideration.
well, we wanted to, requesting reconsideration and discussion. How about that?
May I suggest requesting the withdrawal of the name Englander Pavilion and reopening of the process for public engagement on the naming of the pavilion?
I love it. Yeah, I think we should. Let's try that. Can you repeat that?
Did you write that down?
No, it's on camera, hopefully? All right, we're good?
We're good.
All right, can I have a second?
You got Lori already seconded.
Lori has a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody in favor?
Can you go through the list, please? I'm sorry. Randy's absent.
Can you call the vote?
All right, Randy's absent, Hassan.
Yes.
David Valen.
Yes.
Jason Ecker.
Yes.
Miran.
Yes.
Becky's absent. David Lasher.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Assad.
Abstain.
Abstain. Gabriel, yes. Isam.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you.
Esau,
Yes.
I would like to, on number 19, table that to the next meeting, please. To save some time.
19, table to the next meeting.
Yes.
Table. And also for the item that doesn't have a number, I'm just gonna, I want to table that one.
Okay.
I'm not ready for that right now.
I go to 23.
The one,
No.
the one between, the 19 and a half.
What's that?
Can I have 23?
I'm sorry?
23?
Oh,
Get ready, Miran, you're coming.
what about 20?
Oh, it's 20, sorry. Okay, that's us. Okay, 20. Motion to authorize beautification committee to begin permitting process for a public art project in Porter Ranch with a budget not to exceed $2,000. So I've worked with Greg Smith's office, and they have kindly agreed to cover half the cost from the art development fund that the city has with the Department of Cultural Affairs. So actually, for every, for the 2,000, we actually leverage 4,000. Essentially, the idea is we want to get some public art in Porter Ranch. We have virtually no public art in Porter Ranch. I can't think of any.
You say to begin the permitting process, what does that mean? Can you help us
So,
understand?
so the way that it works is we're working on traffic control boxes right now. So there's a process that the council office, once we secure the funding, works with a nonprofit. I'm working with 1111, which is the ones that they did the one on Devonshire with Chatsworth Bid, use them, if you've seen those. So those two agencies work with cultural affairs, and there's a permitting process which involves, I believe is it Bureau of Street Services or some sort of, Bureau of Street Services, a permit is required. So it's essentially getting that process going. Once we secure the funding, and we're going to be getting that process going, and this is going to come back to the board.
Okay, so this is a permitting, not permitting a specific art project, but
No.
rather permitting, just initiating
Just giving me permission to start working on getting things going with this budget.
Okay.
And then what will happen is we'll get things more solidified, we'll come back with ideas, suggestions, we'll take questions, we'll,
Okay. So we have a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any board question?
Quick
comment?
question.
Yes.
So the commitment you have from CD12, you have it in writing?
No. With an email. I have an email, yes, from Ron.
And the new council will honor, we don't know?
I don't know. Okay. But the goal is to get other actually neighborhood councils involved, other sources of funds. We want to make this a big thing. We just want to get it going, basically.
Can I then ask for an amendment to state that pending continued approval of CD12 for supplemental funding in the amount of, what did you say?
$2,000.
Another $2,000. Would you accept that amendment?
Yeah, and actually, because this Tampa, we have a $9,000 budget for community improvement projects. So this Tampa median thing, if this falls by the wayside, then I would probably be looking to come back next month. Maybe we're going to increase this.
All right, don't make an amendment. We have a vote, motion and a second, public comment. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I work for the city of Warren Park. They had tens of thousands of dollars squirreled away in this thing, never spent a penny. How much of this is it broken up by council district?
Yes.
How much do they have? $180,000? They have $200. What do they have in community art that they can't, provide
A lot.
$30,000?
The art
And
fund?
two, we're going to talk more about just painting traffic boxes, right?
Yeah,
I'm leaving it, it's open to other options, but the traffic control boxes is something that, you know, we can begin with.
but again, all we're doing here is initiating a permitting process to allow us to bring our ideas and implement them.
Thank you.
Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, correct. Public comment? Anybody else?
Do you
Mayor?
know, Jason, what is the total cost of this project?
We're not even, okay, so,
It's not a project,
Oh, okay.
it's just a permit.
yeah, like, we haven't decided who we're gonna use. We can pick, you know, we can do a cheaper version, a more expensive version, you know, there's a lot more work to it. We just wanna get it
Can I
going.
call the vote?
All right,
Call the vote.
Brandy, absent, Hassan.
Yes.
David Bailey.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Miran.
Yes.
Becky is absent, David Lasher.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel, yes. Hassan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 21, Miran. Show me how fast you can run. This is the letter that we sent,
Yes.
and this is the follow-up.
So this motion is a discussion and possible action to authorize the PRNC Education Committee to host a civic engagement presentation and event with the state senators Harley Stern and Bob Cosworth, Youth Engagement Cross California, at the Porter Ranch Community School to be held at the Porter Ranch Community School at a date to be determined, and to authorize the PRNC to incur up to $800 in expenses for the event.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Public comment, they gave up. Anybody, board discussion, question?
Good job, Miran.
Thank you.
All right, Brandy, absent, Hassan.
Yes.
David Balin.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Miran.
Yes.
Becky's absent, David Lasher.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Assad. Yes. Gabriel, yes. Hassan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 23, Dave.
All right, item 23, motion to approve up to $300 for 2 large heavy-duty coolers, wagon, to carry supplies and batteries for our PA mic and camera.
We have a motion.
Wagon?
Hassan made a second.
Hassan seconded.
Public comment, none? Yes, no? Board comment? Call the vote?
All right, Brandy, absent, Hassan.
Yes.
David Balin.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Miran.
Yes.
Becky's absent, David Lasher.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Assad. Yes. Gabriel, yes. Hassan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 24, Miran.
He needs to.
Come on, let's go.
It's Castle.
Oh, I have to abstain, sorry.
I got this.
Discussion and possible action to authorize the PRNC Education Committee to co-sponsor a teacher's appreciation event at Castle Bay Elementary School with LUSD Superintendent Joseph Nakorda, Local District Northwest, and Board Member Scott Johnson at a date to be determined, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,700 in food, music, and supplies.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
David have a second. Public comment? I see none. Board comment? Call the vote?
All right, Brandy, absent, Hassan.
I'm sorry, just a second.
It's
How much did we spend? Well, I appreciate that, but how much did we spend at PRCS?
It was less than that. It was less than 1,100.
Is there a reason you're asking for 1,700 here?
I just want to be on the safe side because we might purchase the certifications and also the model presentation they are going to bring in. I'm not sure yet, but I want to be on the safe side.
I'd rather not spend more than what we spent for this group here, though.
Correct. It's not going to be up, it's going to be
I
up.
appreciate that. So, would you consider lowering the maximum amount so that there's a clear understanding of how much we're gonna spend?
Maybe 1,200 possibly.
I would say 1,300.
1,300?
Yes.
All right, so if we have an amended motion to change the total to 1,300 from 1,700.
Second it.
up to-
Hassan.
Hassan seconded. Thank you, Miran, for considering it. Call the vote?
1,300?
Yes.
All right. Brandy's absent, Hassan.
Yes.
David Bailey.
Yes.
Jason.
He's upstairs.
Abstain. Miran.
Yes.
Becky.
No.
Excuse me. He's recused.
He's recused, I'm sorry, thank you.
All right, Becky's absent, David Lasher,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Assad,
Yes.
Gabriel, yes, Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Without objection, meeting is adjourned.